Ref. Actually got the ball. Yes, good evening, Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur for your time of the week where you come on and share your opinions on all things Tottenham. Of course, we have a lot to discuss, a lot of fallout from yesterday's game, a lot of sort of different split opinions. Of course, we all seen the 1-1 draw with Fulham, but I've seen a lot of reaction to it right across social media. Some saying with the injuries and stuff like that, it's not a bad point to take, with others saying it's disappointing, frustrating, and very below par. So let us know where you stand on that. A lot of discussion around Sonny's struggles and with his age. Is he a player in decline, or is he just a player going through a temporary dip in form? Come on and share your opinions on that. Also, are fans too critical of Son? Do they expect too much of him, and should they be looking at other players to step up when he doesn't? A little bit about Ben Davies as well. Articles released this week that Tottenham plan to execute a clause in his contract to extend it by a further year. Does he deserve it? Does he not? Or should we look to use them wages and put them into fresher talent? And also, how do Spurs fans see Ben Davies take out just this season in general at his time at Tottenham? Underrated, past his peak, or past his peak and replaceable? Let us know. Brennan Johnson, bit of a weird one here as well. Club's top scorer this season across all competitions with 10 goals. However, mixed feelings around Brennan Johnson at the minute. A lot of people questioning what does he actually contribute outside of one kick every single game. And then a lot as well about our injuries. Are our injuries derailing our season, or is it down to the manager? Could Postecoglou be doing better? And then maybe if you want, just maybe if you want to, Solanke not in the forward line yesterday without seeing him. How much of a big miss is he, and what did we miss in his absence? And then the bemusement around Ange Postecoglou's sub yesterday. There was a lot of anger. It was one thing that everybody pulled out, whether they're Ange in or Ange out, is the substitutions and maybe the bemusement around it. He took off Maddison, Werner, and Sarr for Bergvall, Kulusevski, and Gray, and only brought Will Lancashire on when Gray hobbled off injured. He could be another one added to the injury list. So a lot to talk about this evening. Jack, how are you, my man?
Excellent job on the questions, Dave. I really liked how you announced them. Plenty of talking points from that game. Most of them kind of just, sort of question marks that maybe have already been there in the past, or, ones that are starting to become more serious. Like you said with Sonny, maybe is he, all the same this season? Is he maybe nursing an injury, or is he just showing the signs of age? You also bring up maybe questions about Johnson. Is it one of those kind of stats versus seeing eye test type of things with the guy, and plenty of other decent talking points. So I actually liked how you announced those. Good to see some people in the house here. Appreciate you joining us. We have a decent queue at the moment. You got some people waiting their turn, but if you want to come on, have your say, consider becoming a fan show member. But link is in the community section for everybody that is a fan show member for now. And yeah, looking forward to it, Dave. 100%. I'm just looking forward to hopefully a bounce back. We're about to play so many games that you just hope, when you drop points like this, that maybe you can bounce back in the next one. And, we're riding high again, but it's gonna be a tough month.
Where it becomes frustrating for me is you hear these players, talking about wanting to win titles, but then the work ethic on the pitch, especially in times when you've got injuries and stuff like that, sometimes you have to go beyond the barrier, and it just feels like at Tottenham, these players don't really want to do that, or some of them don't at least, and it just becomes frustrating. You beat Man City 4-0, you beat Fulham, all of a sudden you head into the Bournemouth game full of confidence. We're all heading into another game where you really don't know what to expect. It's just really, really frustrating. And then everybody has their own reasons behind it as well. But look, let's welcome people in who's viewing from home. Let's hear what they have to say, and then we will crack on and start getting the guests on. We have Trevor in the house. He says, has Levy signed a brilliant Russian player? Imav Yusuloslov. Look, not going to catch me with fake names. You can keep coming in and trying. And to be honest with you, I'm not an ITK either. We will bring up the rumors and we'll sort of give our own opinion whether we think they're legit or whether they're just there for you to click on. That's all we do. Unless I come out and tell you with my one and done under Kim Min Hyuk, by the way, which someone reminded me the other day. I did say to you, this one will happen, and it did happen. So, maybe I might have to whip that back out in the January transfer window. Let me see. Mark says, I want Ange to succeed. However, Ange's subs after Fulham went down to a 10-man was the worst that I've ever seen. If I didn't know, I would think I was watching a Parks coach. Look, it was very bemusing, Mark. A lot of us had, criticized the substitutions. For me, just quickly, when it comes to someone like James Maddison, look, even if he was having a poor performance, he's one of the only players on the pitch that can play that ball from different angles, and feed people in behind. It's not Johnson's forte. It's not Son's forte. It's, it's certainly not Basuma's forte, and then you bring on Archie Graham Bergvall to try and do it. I'm not quite so sure behind that. And then you wait till Archie Gray limps off to bring on Will Lancashire. I'm not being funny, but as soon as they went 1-up, I would have brought him and Kulusevski straight off the bench. Kulusevski straight into midfielder out wide. And then, Will Lancashire through the middle and start bombarding for them. It never really happened. And I think we're all left bemused by the substitutions. Big up Eugene, Dermotron, big up Chris, Scotty Hynam. Great to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Let us know your thoughts on yesterday's game. We've got Envy Eddie. He says, member for 8 months. Big up Eddie. Time of our lives, lads. Can't wait for the next one so I can hear more moaning about how bad we are. If something doesn't change, we are doomed. The usual happy clapper has been broken. Come on, you Spurs. Well, look, we'll get Eddie to come on and explain more behind that. Look, what I would say is it does seem like we're sort of limping over the line towards the January transfer window. Big question is there funds to push and help, reinvigorate us for the second half of the season? Is there not? I presume we have to wait and see what the reports come out and say. But big up, Eddie. We've got Paul Bean in the house. Mark, we really were limited with our subs, to be fair. And look, that is fair. We were limited to our substitutions, Paul. One thing I would say is every fan could see Pedro Porro was absolutely, out of energy come 60, 65 minutes. He was out of gas. You got to bring on Jed Spence. He was limited, but I think, many people are questioning, despite being limited, did he make the right use or the right substitutions to try and impact the game? I think is the argument that many people are maybe trying to make, Paul. We've got Chris in the house. I think Tottenham stole all West Ham's trophy. He's an Arsenal fan. Go away, Chris. We've got Baratos, halftime smoke. Good for what they ask of him. Bad when he was forced in with Dyer. That's on Ben Davies. We've got Effing Hell says, hi, lads. Good to see you, Effing Hell. Hope you're keeping well. Paul Bean also says our fans were absolutely rubbish. Worst part of being a Spurs fan is Spurs fans. Ange out, Sonny Wash, Johnson rubbish. What am I leaving out? No, look, we do like to throw our toys out the pram when it doesn't go well. Look, what I would say is after matches, straight after matches, everything's based on emotion, right? We're so heavily invested. You hope then during the week, as the week goes on, sorry about that, more common sense sort of prevails, more balance comes around the situation and stuff like that. But look, Paul, everyone's frustrated right now. We just want to sort of really kick on. We're fed of this. And look, I do think a lot of the what's happened under previous managers is also, on Ange Postecoglou. If he goes and the next guy comes in all that way and expectancy and burden is just going to be put onto that guy. And, people are going to have shorter, what would you say, tenures with managers because we're going to become so frustrated because everything's just building up. I do think at some point we need to have some clarity around the situation. When you look at teams that win trophies, they usually 9 times out of 10, bar the Abramovich era where he gave every single manager in here the best squad to work with 4 times over in terms of positions. It's stability in the dugout. And we have to realize that at some point we got to get behind the manager and give him a full opportunity. Big up, DB. Good to see you. Evening like a sucker. I'm back now. Good to see you, DB. We're all suckers, my man. We're all in the same boat. Regardless of where we all sit on different opinions, whether it's managers, owners, etc., we're all in the same boat, my man. We're all in the same hellhole. MKP says, expected a tough period for Spurs. Good to see you. A very tough period coming up on the horizon. Swim Master, we lack depth, not a new January. We need another Kulu and Bentancur type double swoop. Magic, is the Italian Paratici with us? He is still with us on the very periphery. But for me, when I look at the summer transfer window, it's clear where Johan Lang and Rob McKenzie, the new guys brought in to oversee the transfers and all that sort of jazz, that, they had power of the summer transfer window, and I think they fucked it up. That's why we resorted to bringing in a lot of young players towards the end of it, to try and appease a few fans and stuff like that. But before that, even when Paratici was ousted out of the club and sitting around, he still had Gabbanini in there doing the job for him, working off the directive. And now the two of them are gone. I do think under Lang and McKenzie, we've seen a change in, people operating and personnel operating in the transfer window, which comes about different preferences, different players and who they prefer and all that sort of jazz. And I think we did pivot somewhere along the line, Swim Master. So, look, I have no faith in Johan Lang. And if he can't do the business in the summer, I think he'll struggle in the January transfer window, sadly enough. Big up, Woodsy Hotspur. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. Artist T, great to see you. Drawn to 10-men Fulham isn't acceptable. That's where I'm at, my man. Sebas Wolf, here we go with Sonny. Concerns. Look, it's a lot of people over socials. You got to speak about it, you know. We've got King Huddle. No team can sustain this amount of injuries. 5 starters out and another on the bench. And I'm not going to thank this fatiguing players who are being overplayed. This isn't on Ange at all. It's bad luck. No, look, 100%. You know, you're absolutely spot on where it does have a knock-on effect where you are fatiguing players. And there was an element to that game yesterday, you know, that there was that fatigue in players that we've had to rely on a lot lately. But it comes back to the summer transfer window. You know, I just don't think we brought enough strength in depth. You know, when you look at it now, the likes of Archie Gray, Bergvall, even though they're on the bench, Postecoglou is very hesitant to use them. If he had better options available, you know, would he be more inclined to use them? I would say yes, and therefore you might not see the same drop-off. And I think it's just poor squad planning to a large degree, because we suffer this every single year. It's not just under Postecoglou this has happened. It's happened under Conte, happened under Jose. You know, for me, look, I have no problem with bringing in young players, bringing them on the periphery, but you're still going to have a strong core of a squad in order to help them players sort of come through and stuff like that. King Huddle, big up. We've got Chris Baum in the house. What's up, lads? I'm chatting. I'm fine with it, really. We play fun football and are missing a lot of key players. No striker, no goalie, no Van de Ven. No, look, absolutely fair points. All players that would have made a huge difference yesterday. You got to take that into consideration. Uphill Gardner, a lot of big teams looking at Zubimendi. That means he can man highways. Look, we ain't getting Zubimendi. That's Dreamward. Trust me, we ain't paying for that. We've got Ella in the house says, why is Ange not using Spence? Porro was awful. I think we all agree with that. DB says, Johnny got it right on last one on Spurs. Ange's personality is being reflected on the player's performance. I'll have to go and listen to that. I'll have to listen to what he has to say on that one, DB. Davey Hall says, big up everyone. Just we can't defend no matter poor squad to cover those out. Big up, my man. DB says excuses. Injuries happen at every club. Performance and endeavour is all we're asking for. DB, look, I completely agree with you when it comes to performance and endeavour. That is what we're asking for. But Arsenal took a hit just recently when they had a lot of players out injured. Look at Man City right now. Yeah, they're still up there, but they're way off their usual standards compared to where they usually are at this time because of a lot of injuries. You know, injuries do impact. Look at Jurgen Klopp's last season. Last year, a hell of a lot of injuries impacted him. Injuries do impact managers. It does impact results. It doesn't matter whether you're a big club, whether you've got the best manager, the best squad. You take a hit on it 100%. We feel ours a lot more because we don't have the same squads as some of them other clubs to be able to maybe navigate it as well as they can. That's what I would say, DB. Let me know your thoughts on that, my man. Katie Davies, great to see you. We'll take one or two more and we'll crack on with the guests. Are you guys watching the FA Cup draw? That's on today. Look, it's on today. I think it's on right now. So, you know, keep us updated who we get, guys, and we'll definitely have a discussion on that, or we'll keep an update on it as well. And then just DB coming in with response. Player for players, injuries are player for player, injuries or not. We had the better team. I know who had the better adaptable manager. No, look, 100%. That's fair enough. Absolute point. Look, I agree. We should have had enough on the day. I should have put in a lot more energy on the day to beat Fulham. I'm not excusing that. But you also have to take into account, if we're going to bring some balance to the situation, is injuries impact you. You look at other clubs that I've spoken about, it's impacted them. We have to take that on. We have to acknowledge that. We can't just make everything a managerial problem. You're going to suffer when you have injuries, but I still agree with you. We should have enough to beat Fulham. I completely agree with that. I don't disagree with that, my man. But look, let's crack on. Let's start getting on the guests. Let's hear what they have to say. The first guest we have in the background this evening is the one and only Dermotron. Dermo, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just watching the draw. Some interesting draws have come out. Man United have got Arsenal away. Man City have got Salford. That's a local derby for them.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Yeah. Liverpool have got Accrington Stanley.
That's another derby.
That's another derby. I'm still waiting for Spurs to come out. We've missed all the big teams so far, so we're doing well. We're going to win this year.
No, we'll still get a Premier League team away somewhere. They love screwing us in these draws.
Yeah, they do. Look, I understand what everyone's saying. I get it, right? Yesterday. And I get with Ange's substitutions that weren't brilliant. And I'm Ange's biggest fan. I get it. But you got to take a bit of perspective on it as well. You got to look at the some of the positives. We're 5 points off second place. Yes, we got injuries. Yes, it wasn't good enough yesterday, but it could be a hell of a lot worse. We could have lost that game yesterday. We could. Do you know what I mean? And to sit 5 points off second place, no team's consistent in the Premier League apart from Liverpool and Chelsea. They're the only two consistent teams. So I understand people are frustrated. I understand people are angry. I've seen a hell of a lot worse. So maybe me being an older fan, maybe I'm just looking at it slightly a little bit differently from everyone else.
Dermot, do you agree with the likes of DB, though, where I do agree with the point he's making. I do think he needs to factor in the injuries and they will come back to bite you. But I do agree with him in general, though. We should have enough to beat Fulham. Like, we can't keep making excuses for faltering against these teams. Injuries or not, you would say, the bigger games, injuries, you'd say, do you know what? Fair enough. They are very decisive in the bigger games against the bigger teams.
Yeah.
But teams like Fulham, and I'm not trying to disrespect them, they're a good, tidy outfit. They are difficult to beat. They pick up surprise results along the Premier League. But when you're at home, you should have enough to beat them, though, right?
You should do. We just got Tamworth away in the FA Cup third round, by the way.
Come on, I'm just watching it here.
We just got Tamworth, so I'll just let you know.
Let's go.
Look, I agree with you, Dave. I agree with you.
Tamworth, get battered everywhere they go.
Don't say it too soon.
Look, I agree with you, Dave. Look, I can't disagree what everyone's saying, but I'm just looking at it from a different point of view, from probably an older fan's point of view, where I've probably seen a lot worse. And if you look at it, I say again, 5 points off second place. Nobody in the Premier League's consistent. Man City haven't won in 7. Do you know what I mean? So there's a few teams worse off than us, but yeah, we should be beating Fulham at home. It is disappointing. It is frustrating. But do you know what I mean? We there's a lot of games in December. We've got Bournemouth away. We've got Chelsea at home. We should have Romero back for the Chelsea game, hopefully. And the players are doing their best out there. That they are. I agree with Ange last night. They are working hard. They may not be the most gifted players in the world. Some of them may be out on their feet. And that, I've said it before and I say it again. Our transfer windows coming to bite us on the arse. Because we didn't build a squad big enough for this scenario. But it is what it is. We can't change it. We can't do anything about it to January. So what we can do is get behind the team. Yes, we're frustrated, but let's get behind Ange and the boys and we'll move on. We can't linger on these games because the games are coming thick and fast. So we've got to now look ahead to Brighton away. Let's get our heads around that one. And, I'm just not letting it stress me because there's no point. Yeah, I'm angry, but I thought of it last night and I was going to do a video last night and I thought I'd be too emotional. So I watched the game again and I've taken my talking points out of it and we can only do what they can do. I mean, we should be beating Fulham, yeah. 9 times out of 10 we beat Fulham at home. But yesterday was one of them days when nothing went right for us. We lost to Lanky before the game. And maybe that point at the end of the season may be the point that gets us Champions League. Who knows?
Well, look, let's take this from 2000 GT. Big up 2000 GT. I wonder if you got 2000. Is that your bank balance, my man? But big up 2000 GT. Really appreciate support. And, she, I'm not quite sure, says, what needs to clear out is this fan base. It's infested with glory-seeking children who can't stomach the suffering it takes to build anything of value, all while the football is the most entertaining in a decade. I'm done with it. Look, on that, just quickly from me, I think there is a lot of impatience within the Tottenham fan base, and I've said this myself. I think we're too quick to go after managers and make them the problem of absolutely everything. And I've pointed out, when you look at Arteta, that didn't just happen overnight. They suffered 2 sort of, what would you call mediocre league campaigns before it went on. Yes, you make the case that Arteta won the FA Cup, but he won that with a lot of the older players that he cleared out of the dressing room. He hasn't won anything since. But they gave him time, continued investment to sort out the problems, sort out the squad and push it forward. You look at Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. There was a time where I remember, especially against Bournemouth, it was the case, but there was a lot of other games where you were getting 4-3s, 3-2s. Liverpool were gifting away, conceding, a lot of silly goals. They went out in the January transfer window. They backed Jurgen Klopp. They gave him Van Dijk and Alisson. There you go. And they went on to win every sort of cup in club football. Even Guardiola, when he came in his first season, he didn't deliver what he did everywhere else. But since they continued to back him, and since then, they've never looked back. They won everything else. When you look at the teams that are winning in English football or in football in general, they're teams that usually have stability in the dugout. Very rare do you hear of a crazy story where a manager walks in one season, cleans up and wins everything. And I think at Tottenham, our frustration with the ownership, and stuff like that, it does get taken out on the managers. And look, for me, I'm of the opinion when the managers come here, we hire them. They're here with, we hire them for their brand of football and because of their CV that's been successful everywhere they've been and they win things. We bring them to Tottenham Hotspur, and all of a sudden, everybody's asking them to change. If we want managers that are adaptable, and Daniel Levy wants managers that's adaptable, hire a manager that operates like that. Stop hiring guys like Conte, like Jose Mourinho, like Ange Postecoglou, who have a system and it's worked everywhere they've been. The difference is other clubs, they embrace it. They say to them, no problem, what do you need? Let's make it happen. For instance, when we hired Conte, he has a big backroom team. We said to him, no, you can only bring 4 or 5 with you or 3. You can't bring everybody. We just make their jobs that little bit more difficult. We all seen last summer heading into this season, we all said Postecoglou needs a 6. He needs a left back, left-sided centre-back, and we need some more experienced players to push this team on. We didn't get it in the summer transfer window. The only change we made to the 11 is Dominic Solanke. And I feel like Postecoglou is paying the price for a lot of this. And yes, he doesn't help himself with what he comes out and says, and he takes the blame for absolutely everything. But the reality is, he's just fronting for the football club. That's what he's doing, And I do agree with you. We do need to show managers patience. We hire good managers. And I just hope the next, eventually fans get bored of making this manager a problem, that manager a problem, everything else, and actually give a manager time and sit there and go, because Liverpool fans done it with Klopp, by the way. Instead of, get him out. It's like, right, what can we give him so that we can get what he brought at Dortmund? And they went and delivered. And I think they're the conversations we need to have around our manager, because once you do, all of a sudden, it does put that little bit of pressure on the board. If we're speaking about it, the media speaking about it, puts that pressure on the board to go and get it done. Because if they don't, all the questions after the transfer window is from the media, which is very important, but also the fans, is why didn't you go and get it done when you know he needed it? So I think that's where I'm at with the whole situation. But I don't believe in going after fans and attacking fans. At the end of the day, regardless of people's opinions, I do believe everybody's frustration is a result of just wanting Tottenham Hotspur to be successful, and that's where the arguments come around, because everybody has different ideas to get there. But also, when you bring in a manager, there's never really any time frame. Everyone sort of has their own time frame on how long it'll take to turn Tottenham Hotspur around, and that's where the arguments come in. But I think this is where the board really need to step up now and come out and say, Postecoglou's our guy. We realize there's more investment needed in January. We're going to do it. That would quell everybody down. Everyone knows what they're getting behind, and the conversation's turn. But that's just my opinion. Jack, anything you want to say?
I'd just quickly add that, in my opinion, Ange has delivered some of the best football I've seen in a long time at Spurs. And I think we've seen enough really incredible performances, dominating type performances, liquid football, that it gives me that confidence in him to give a manager then the benefit of the doubt over a long run of games, even when things do get annoying, when things get frustrating, even when the manager, let's say, makes substitution mistakes or whatever, still going to call it out, still going to judge it. But I have a long leash with Ange. I just think as a Spurs manager, you're going to go through so many different hoops. You're going to go through so many different obstacles. Not everything is going to be perfect for you. So it will take a long time, like 2000 GT is suggesting. It will take a while for everything to really come to fruition. And that's what I feel like with Ange. It's going to take a while for him. But I believe in what he is trying to instill. I've been convinced by the football that I've seen. So I'm going to give him that leash, and I'm going to give him that benefit of the doubt. It's just some people have longer tolerances, longer, sort of patience, times, I guess, with managers than others. And to be honest, Spurs have conditioned us to think that way. So I don't always blame fans for being a bit more impatient than others 2000 GT. But to be clear, I'm completely in the same boat as you. I'm very convinced by Ange, and I haven't really wavered at all, except during 30 minutes of the Coventry City game where my brain was just melting. But apart from that, I'm fully Ange in, and I'm happy to have a long, benefit of the doubt type of a relationship with him.
Big up 2000 GT. And Dermo, do you sort of agree with him? Look, I'm not going to go into pulling out fans and stuff like that, but do you agree to him that there has to be a realization in the Spurs fan base, but at some point, and look, it does also on the flip side, it doesn't make it right, that if Postecoglou ain't the right guy, you keep him in the job because of that opinion. But there has to be some realization at some point. You've got to give manager time to sort it out, right?
You do. I'm not here to criticize other fans either. I think every fan has the right to their opinion, and they have the right to how they want to support Tottenham Hotspur. It's their opinion. But I think we have to give Ange time. We've had 5 managers in 8 seasons or something like that haven't been given time. I can go back further to Alex Ferguson. Didn't win anything in his first 6 seasons or 5 seasons. Become one of the most successful Manchester United managers since Matt Busby. Keith Birkinshaw got us relegated in his first season at Tottenham. What did he go on to do? Win 2 FA Cups and the UEFA Cup. So if you give managers time, they will gel a winning side together. And I think fans are too quick to jump on the Ange out train. They're too quick to say it's the manager's fault. They have to go out. Well, who do they want in? Who's out there to take over for Ange? Who's out there that's better than Ange right now? And there isn't anyone better than. We could be stuck with a Gareth Southgate or a Graham Potter or somebody like that. I mean, is he any better than Ange Postecoglou? No. So I think we have to stick with Ange. We've got to stick by him. And look, but I'm not here to tell people how to support Tottenham. It's down to them. But I do feel some of the fan base can be a little bit too quick on the exit button, where they need to take a step back and look, what happens when you don't sack a manager? And you're right, Dave. You give manager time to build something, to succeed something, then it will come. So, but look, every fan's their own opinion. I respect their opinion, and that's why it makes football such an interesting sport to follow.
Well, big up 2000 GT. Thank you very much for your opinion, my man. Let me know if you disagree or agree with anything that we've said. Feel free to put it back in the chat there, my man, and we'll bring it up, as we go along. And, really appreciate the support, but thank you for your opinion, sir. We do have a lot more opinions in there that I will bring up. I just want to give Dermot one more question before we let the man go. Dermot, a lot of sort of questions around, actually, Ben Davies. I got to ask you about Ben Davies. I'll save the Sun one for someone else. Look, Tottenham, the reports came out from the Athletic over the week that Tottenham are planning on maybe triggering Ben Davies' contract. I think there's a clause in it to trigger it and extend it by another year, that Tottenham are reportedly thinking about doing it, or that they plan on doing it. Do you agree with them, or do you think that it's time for Ben Davies to move on and look to reinvest their wages into somebody else?
I think I agree with you, Dave. Ben Davies needs to go this season. Let him go on the high. Let's lift him up on our shoulders and make him walk out White Hart Lane after a good season. He's been very dependable this year, to be fair to him, and he's played well. And when we've asked him, he saved us at Coventry. He played well yesterday. I agree with Jack's point earlier when I watched you earlier about only 2 dodgy passes he made in the whole game. One of them was for the goal we conceded, but it didn't take over. He had a good game. Look, I think he should move on. I think we should put him into the coaching stuff. And put him in that direction and put his wages into players, more younger players or better players to come in.
Let me follow up on that just quickly, Dermot, and I'm going to let you plug the channel, man. There is a case to be made out there that Ben Davies, people have always said he's the steady Eddie, he's reliable, and that he's proven that this season, and that, with the lack of leadership in and around the squad, it's probably wise to do it.
I can see that point. I mean, you look at Ben Davies for his whole career at Tottenham. He really hasn't been the worst out of the famous trio. You could call them Davies, Dyer, and Sanchez. I think he was more of the more steady one out of the three of them. He made mistakes. Yes, he hasn't played well in games under managers. Yes, he went to the board to get Nuno the sack, which, to be fair to him, I actually applaud him for, because Nuno was a Garden gnome, always will be. So I have no problems with that. But look, I think I think we should let him see out his contract, give him a contract as a coach, or work with the younger players and pass on his knowledge of what it means to be a modern professional footballer.
Fair enough.
Dedicating yourself to the game, dedicating yourself to training, not going out partying, doing what you can for the club and do all the other stuff he does for the club off the field. Employ him in that way, and then we can invest his wages into young talent, into better centre backs, because that's what we want. We want to grow this squad. We want to get better players in. But look, Ben Davies, fair play to him. I think he's redeemed himself a little bit this season with his performances. But yeah, I think at the end of the season, it's time to say, thanks, Ben, for everything you've done. We're going to give you this contract with the younger players and we'll bring somebody else in. But thank you very much.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Guys, let us know your opinion in the chat. I will go through a lot of comments now. Please get over, check out Dermot's channel, THFC Till I Die. Big push for 2K before Christmas to make a man's Christmas dream come true. So please get over there, smash that subscribe button. Doesn't need too much more, just about 20 or 30. So
26.
26. So, if there's 26 years, it would be kind of used to make a man's Christmas dream. It is the season of giving. It is the 2nd of December. So why not? Dermo, thank you very much for your time this evening, sir.
No, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, please come over at 26. It would make my Christmas, Tequila's columns, and our Christmas as Ambrose's as well. I'm on in half an hour of my own match day prediction. Sorry, I'm going up against you, Dave. I know I'm going up against the heavyweights of YouTube world, but
not heavyweights at
as
all.
I'm not around tomorrow. I wanted to get out tonight. So but no, please like and subscribe here first. They're the best channel in town.
Thank you, Dermot. Have a good evening, my man.
You too. Come on, you Spurs.
See you, my man. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
That's the great Dermot, guys. Please get across, check out his channel, and check him out. Absolutely brilliant, getting us kicked off. Not an easy thing to do, so big up Dermot, my man. Jack, DB has gifted out 10 Irish Hotspur memberships. I'll get on to that in a second. Just list out the names and who's the lucky recipients that need to say thank you to the big man.
Very generous, DB. He's gifted out to Gen Pop Killer, Robert, CS, Eltel Cockerell, Ashwin as well. Just catching up with it again here. I see Ashwin, C-Max, Stuart, maybe this is an itch. Stuart Pogagich, love the name. And then Mark, Sammy Pilgrim, Ray Chrisley. Really big up to DB. That's very, very generous. And, appreciate you, expressing your opinions on things. I think a lot of people would feel similar to you. But also, any of those people who have been gifted a membership, Ashwin, C-Max, Mark, plenty of people I've seen in the chat before, Robert, come on, have your say. The link is in the community section, and you can come on and join the fan show right now, join the queue, and, make your debut.
No, look, and make sure most importantly, you say thank you to DB. Plenty of members-only content and all that stuff for you to enjoy. DB probably should have bought himself one amongst all that generosity to other people. But DB also follows up and says, I don't do subscriptions, but it's important to support you now and again. And look, I really appreciate that, my man. At the end of the day, the option's there for people if they do and they don't. Everyone has their own reasons for it, and that's fair enough, So I really appreciate it, my man, that you've chose to. And you know what? I've never said this, but one thing I do respect about you, my man, is that, we don't agree on everything. But, we hear each other out. We give our opinions as best as we can. We communicate and we never fall out, which I absolutely love that about you, my man. We're a prime example of what we're trying to teach here, that you can have different opinions. It's okay, but you can still get on with each other and stuff like that. And also, I remember about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago now, where you did sort of before you came in, you didn't really like what I had to say, but then you came back and you said, you know what, Dave, you're a bit more balanced and all that sort of stuff. Never forget that. So big up, DB. Really appreciate that, my man. Let's also welcome in Ian Ferguson. Great to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. We have Nomad in the house. That named 11 were first-team players. They were just weren't good enough yesterday. I think many people will agree with that, Nomad. Good to see you. Thomas says, we have Tamworth in the cup, by the way. Yeah, Tamworth away. I put in the chat, how many goals do you think we're going to score? I think this is one that we should be able to get carried away with and get a bit confident and cocky with. Surely there's no one going to come on and make a case where we shouldn't get too carried away or too cocky and that we're going to get turned over. If we get turned over by someone like Tamworth, or you have that feeling, then we just need to give up on sport. So let me know, how many goals do you think we're going to win by? Big up, Thomas. We also have Rafi Carter. We've got Tamworth away, absolutely spot on. Big up, Rafi. Good to see you in the house. We've got Derek Hutchinson, Del Boy. Big up, Dave, Jack, Dermot. What a load of crap yesterday. Do you know what? Even going back looking at the highlights and that today, just To be honest, I don't think it. Usually they make me feel a bit better. It didn't today. It just sort of,
No.
continued on the pain a little bit. It was torture, to be quite frank. Derek Hutchinson, big up. He says, I do not subscribe. Oh yeah, I've already read that one out. Big up, DB legend. Yeah, Rayman's in the house evening, and he also says, I'm 100% on board with this to start calling for a change when a manager's had 3 windows and just over 1 full season is part of the problem at Spurs. No, fair enough. Rayman, big up, my man. Good to see you in the house. Absolute legend. Hopefully you're keeping well. We also have Mark Sheehan in the house. I think Dave is 100% spot on here. No, look, appreciate that. That's just my feeling on it in general. But big up, Mark. We got John Lee in the house where we have impact player Ange by this season. What impact? What is wrong with me this evening? What impact player has Ange bought this season? Solanke, I'm not sure. Look, I would argue, John Lee, we really missed Solanke yesterday, actually, in terms of that hold-up play, that physicality, but also in terms of the pressing. That forward line was very lackluster. Anything that went up there didn't stick and just came straight back on us. So I do think we missed Dominic Solanke yesterday. Now, fair question to say, should he be scoring more goals? Should he be having a bigger impact? Look, he missed a massive chance against Ipswich, massive one against City, and a massive one was it against Roma as well, if I believe. You would argue he should be doing better, but creating one chance a game for him isn't enough either. And this is where I still think we need more balance across that forward line. And also, just quickly, look, Ange may come out and back that transfer window. What choice has he got when he's Tottenham Hotspur manager? Come out and say, I don't want this guy, I don't want that guy, and get himself into, ironically, what Conte had with Jed Spence and sort of stuff like that. We all know how it ends. He's got to come out and say, I'm happy with the transfer window. But honestly, let's sit here and think about this logically. Do we really think Ange Postecoglou spent a whole season last season telling the press to stop talking about top 4 and start talking about trying to win trophies at Tottenham Hotspur and try and get that trophy mentality into people all last year, and then turn around in the summer and say, go and get me a load of teenagers, I'll go and win you the league? It just doesn't happen like that. I'm sorry, there's no way he done that. There's got to be a bit of balance around it. There's got to be an understanding that if you're a manager, you're not coming into a press conference to say what the fans want you to say. You're coming in playing 5D chess. Every question you're asked, you're trying to navigate. And you're like, right, what can I say that I don't alienate the players, Daniel Levy, the fans, this, that, and the other? It's a game of 5D chess. I never take anything any of them say in the press conferences too seriously, to be quite frank. It's when they leave the club is when I listen to take what they have to say seriously, because that's when they tell the truth. But big up John Lee. Leighton Evelyn, delusional. Ange is out of his depth, but I don't want him out because we got no one else. But without proper players, he can't achieve nothing. Not his fault. The newest happy clapper in the house. Good to see you, Leighton Evelyn. We've got DB is 100% right, but I believe this isn't the man to give that time to. And look, that's absolutely fair enough, lad. Sorry, and my missus will agree with you that I'm a big child. We're all big children. That's why we love football, my man. We've got Tequila in the house. Great to see you, Tequila. Hopefully you're keeping well. We've got Ellie in the house as Tamwer. We can't cock that one up. Surely, lads, definitely not Ellie. And I'm not even going to entertain discussions around cocking it up, quite frank. It's not going to happen. We're bad. We can be bad on a day, but we won't lose to them. I'm pretty sure of that. Big up Del 20 as well. Great to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. We also have Boise 218. Sorry, Dermot, not this manager. Far too stubborn. Ange Posta, no clue. Fair enough. We got Shikari Shock. We can't rest our players against Tamworth. The game before we play the scum, they have United, so win-win. Big up Shikari Shock. Well, we got King Hoddle. Dave, the scum had to change the way they play when Odegaard is out. City, you're not the same without Rodri. The top sides have issues with just a couple of players are out. We have to. No, look, 100% agree with you. I factored that into my analysis, over the game. I 100% agree with you on that, my man. We'll take a couple more and we'll crack on with more guests. We've got Jason in the house. What a manager. I want a manager who will adapt. Suicidal football, 15 months, and his substitution make no sense. Clueless. Look, that's absolutely fair enough. You're more than entitled to your opinion. Not 100%. What I will say is when we do bring in a manager, you're more entitled to your opinion. But, when we're hiring managers that have a steadfast philosophy and a belief behind them, like we are with Jose Conte and Ange Postecoglou, you got to try and see what they're trying to do and try and, factor that in rather than sit there and go, he needs to change, he needs to adapt. Because the reality is we ain't hiring them sort of managers. There are managers out there that he could hire that will do that. So I definitely agree with some part of that, my man. We got Davey Hall in the house. I don't blame Ange too much. I do blame some players, but they just can't play all these games to 100% all the time. No, absolutely fair point, my man. Absolutely fair point. Matty, great to see you as always. Hopefully you keep well. Look, thank you very much. I'm pretty sure some people will probably unsubscribe now that you've said it, to put us back on the 15K and stuff like that. But big up here, Matt. I really appreciate it. And you know what? It's just madness. Every time we hit and then look, it's a minuscule milestone compared to most other YouTube channels out there. But every time we hit a milestone, I just quite can't believe it, Ilmatic. So thank you, my man. We've got Steve D in the house. We've got one or two more and we will crack on. He says, we've been sold a lie. Andrew isn't perfect, but the new stadium was meant to bring in top signings. Where are they? And look, Steve D, you know me, I've banged on about this before and I completely agree with you on that aspect. I've banged on about it when everyone was okay to let Harry Kane go. And it's like, yeah, but we're being sold a lie then with the stadium. You know what I mean? So you're absolutely spot on. He says, we've always had a sprinkling of stardust in our teams. When was the last wow signing? You're absolutely spot on. Even when I grew up, we always had that sort of one or two wow players, flair players, and I do agree with you. Over the last few years, they haven't quite been there, and we do need to go out and identify one or two in the market. We've got Woodsy TV says, you could be Ange out or Ange in if the results continue to be this inconsistent. He will not make it to the end of the season, regardless of what side you're on. Absolutely fair comment to make, Woodsy. And then we've got this from Alpesh Patel, 2 hours sleep, and then went to the game, and then back to work for my night shift. Wasn't impressed yesterday. Do you know what? I feel sorry for you. You probably should have went to sleep yesterday. It probably wouldn't have missed too much, to be quite honest with you. We didn't create an awful lot yesterday outside of the Fulham mistakes that they gave us. So, you probably could have got your sleep in the stadium. And then we've got DB, who also says, no Ben Davies to stay. Incredible servant. Best 6 out of 10 players I can remember. Attitude over aptitude. Fair enough. And then we've got Willie McKenzie. Hopefully you're keeping well. Looking good, lads. Quarter zips out. We bought in a quarter zip. Fair enough. I didn't realise that. Big up Willie McKenzie, eagle eye. And then Johnny, Dr. Johnny says, no one in the world is beating Pep 4-0 at home. Spurs did. Fans want exactly some football they used to with vastly different results. That's not realistic. Where's the adaptation there? So fair question. People answer Johnny in the chat. So big up everybody. Really appreciate everybody coming in and getting your comments in. Keep getting them in. We will do our best to keep bringing them up. We are reading them. Don't worry. They're not being ignored. And then Swim Master says, question, can Tamworth have a capacity of 5K? That's why our YouTube channel is bigger than them. If we don't beat them, that's a disaster. And that's what we'll sing. We'll go to the game. Our YouTube channel is bigger than you. Something like that. He says, are they allowed to play their home fixture at our ground? The temptation of our capacity money-wise must be tempting for them if allowed. Look, it'd be an interesting one. It's up to them. I don't think it would be allowed, to be quite frank. I think the draw is the draw. Once you open it up for one team, where does it stop? But also, trust me, Tottenham are never the first to do anything. In fact, if we put that to them, they would say no just because it's Tottenham Hotspur. Just like when we had the lasagna food poisoning, can we play the game the next day? No. We got a European game coming up. Can we make sure we can have everybody available for that? We've got COVID. No. Arsenal, yep, you can cancel games. History of it. So we definitely won't get that sort of grace. We definitely won't be allowed to do anything like that. But look, let's keep it moving. Let's get on the next guest. And that is the one and only Eugene. Let's hear what he has to say. Big up, Eugene. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. How are you?
Hey, big up, guys. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, look, I'm a bit mixed emotions today because I'm angry because I do believe it's Fulham at home. You should have enough. You've got to be taking 3 points at home against Fulham. But with the injury crisis, I don't see it alleviating anytime soon. So I'm a bit pessimistic today, I would say. But Eugene, where do you stand? Because there's a lot of mixed opinion around yesterday's result. A lot of people find it disappointing, frustrating, below par. While you had the likes of Dermotron, and a lot of other people sort of agree with him as well in opinions that, it's a conjecture fixture list. There is an element of fatigue because of the injury crisis we have, and maybe it's not a bad point in hindsight.
I mean, that's all true, but I want to start. You read out a comment a couple of minutes ago about somebody mentioned that, everybody has bad games. It happens. Players are tired. The issue is that this isn't an isolated incident, as we discussed many times before. We talked about how players don't turn up for smaller games, right? For Fulham, playing against Spurs is a big game. So you could see the energy, you can see the passion, the hunger. For us, for some of the players who consistently don't turn up for smaller games, they put in the same performance that they did before. After City game, everybody said, oh, Maddison is back, Ange is holding him back. He's a great player. And again, you saw Madison just being completely useless. This was the game with all the injuries, with Solanke being out, with Kulu being on the bench. We needed somebody to step up. And as always, Madison was MIA. He has one good game against big teams, every 5-6 weeks, and that's it. So I don't want to hear any more about Madison. Bissouma was not tired. He was on the bench, I believe, on the weekend. There was no excuse for him not to put in a great shift. He was okay, not great. I expect more. The players who performed the best were the reserves, which was interesting. It was Werner, Forrester, our backline. Poro was shocking, but I excuse Poro because he plays every game. It's just our midfield, Madison, Bissouma, Son. Again, I mean, he started as well, but, the explosiveness isn't there. He cannot play as a 9. I mean, he was shocking. It's just...
Can I ask you about Son there, Eugene? Sorry, tell me to shut up if you want to continue speaking. But, I want to ask you about Son, my man, is... there's a lot being made over social media, and to be fair, it's after every poor game the guy has. A lot's made about his age, that he's washed, he's finished, stuff like that. Do you subscribe to that? Do you think there is an element where, maybe washed and all is the harsh terms to use, but there is a recognition that maybe his ability is in decline? Or do you think he's just going through a temporary spell of form off the back of an injury?
No, I mean, I think he's slowing down. He relied on his pace before. Now his pace is gone. It's not gone, but he definitely lost a step. And I think we need to do with him what Pep did or does with De Bruyne. Just play him once in a while. Son cannot play twice a week. Even once a week is tough for him. He played so many games for us, for Korea. He's just, the explosiveness isn't there. And now you could tell he's losing confidence when he cannot take on his man or beat his man. So I just feel like we need to rest him. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody on the left except Werner to step up. So that's their issue. But with Son, he's definitely slowing down. We're not going to sell him for financial reasons, obviously. And if that's the case, we just need to be careful or watch his playing time. Just play him once a week, once every couple of weeks. And hopefully he's okay with that.
Can we afford to? Do we have the consistency around in other players to
we don't. That's
factor in that maybe there is a time where you maybe have to start picking and choosing Son's games? Because it happens to all the greats. There will come a time. But do we have enough players around, stepping up that we can actually do that though, Eugene?
Oh, we can't. And it goes back to our transfer window and transfer strategy. I mean, even with all the injuries, we just don't have the wingers required to compete on all fronts and be successful. Wilson, Odegaard, even assuming he's going to be back and he's a good player, he's still not enough for us. So yeah, it's not a great situation. And I just want to say, people are going in on Johnson. That's a new one. Before, he wasn't scoring. He's useless now. All he does is score, but he doesn't do anything else, which, again, it's fair, but people say the same thing about Haaland. All he does is score. But ultimately, right, if you're in the front three, your job is to score goals.
Well, is that not more the central striker's job, though, Eugene? Like, if you're off the right wing and left wing, you expect to do both sides of the game.
No, that's fair. But Johnson isn't really a winger, right? He's more of an inside forward. So at least he's scoring goals. And honestly, I feel like he's our most consistent scorer at this point. Hopefully, the rest of the game will come. Hopefully, he's going to become stronger and more stuck in and more comfortable. But right now, nobody else is scoring, right? He's the only one who I can, when the game starts, I'm like, okay, he's going to be there for a tap-in and for a goal. And we saw how Solanke was missed. I agree with what you said before, Dave. everybody says he's not scoring, but without Solanke, we had no energy. Our press was off. Nobody could hold up the ball in the final third. The link-up play wasn't there. It was night and day. Sonny and Solanke, like, it's night and day. So we missed him big time. So for me, honestly, it wasn't a big shock that we didn't get all the 3 points, just given the way we are. Players are tired, we have injuries. Some players are just not good enough. It's a combination of all three. And Ange, of course, his subs, even though I thought that Madison had a poor game, taking him off was strange to me, given we don't have anybody else who can,
do you think
find
the
that
anger
moment.
at the substitutions are justified, Eugene? Because there's been a lot of it. Everyone's sort of angry at them. But then someone made a point today, like, what do you expect me to do with the bench we had yesterday?
No, I agree. I mean, if he felt like Madison was done, he didn't really have much of a choice. He's in a tough situation, right? He was given kids in the transfer window. There is no way anybody can convince me that Ange said that he wants to win and then spend 70 million on 3 kids. It makes no sense. Like, it makes no sense to me. I don't care what he says in the press conference. I don't care, right, about anything else. Like, I'm just using common sense. So he's looking at his bench. The only thing is he should have used Spence since Porter was gassed. So I'm not sure why he's not giving Spence a chance. But other than that, he doesn't have that many options. So it's
fair. Look, the Jed Spence one is one that's sort of, scratching everybody's brain. But Jack, is there anything you want to press Eugene on?
I kind of had just sort of a question of sympathy towards Ange in this period. For you, Eugene. In this kind of month with all these injuries, I'm kind of in that boat where I do feel like a spine has kind of been ripped out of this team. Bentancur being out for Premier League games, Van de Ven, Romero, Vicario. You have options off of the forward line like Richarlison, Wilson Odobert, Mikey Moore. It's just missing so many players in so many key areas. I'm kind of reaching a point where, like, yes, I expect maybe us to do a little bit better than how we played against Fulham, but I don't know about you. Like, is it really the right time to be judging Ange when he has this many injuries, kind of to deal with? It feels like like, we'll be upset, each game at a time. We're fans at the end of the day, but I don't know about you. I'm kind of just going into this month almost preparing for the worst, really, because of the injuries.
I agree. And I mean, I'm Ange. I want Ange to see through this year at least. However, given who we have starting, it's on Ange to tweak his tactics to make sure that what we do, that the players on the pitch can do what he wants them to do. For example, if Solanke isn't there, and we know Sonny can't do the high press, I don't know if it makes sense to keep doing what we're doing, right? I think I'm like, hey, guys, let's not do the high press. Let's tweak things a little bit. Can he do more of that? Yes, he can. Again, I believe you should never compromise on the philosophy, but on game-to-game basis, and given who you're playing, a good coach can make some tweaks. With Davies and Dragoshin, we can play as high of a line as with Van der Ven and Romero. So that's one tweak. And then if Solanke isn't playing, our whole press goes to hell, right? So I feel like Ange can make those tweaks. And
do you think he doesn't use the bench enough either? Because some people are saying Gray, was probably, had more legs in him. Bergvall has legs in him. There are players that maybe he doesn't use, as much as he could.
They have legs, but we don't have any game changers on the bench. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. We don't have anybody who's like, that person's going to come in and give us, great 15 minutes. Ideally to me, Johnson should be on the bench and he'd be a great impact sub. He'd come in that last 15, 20 minutes if we need a goal and give us something. But we don't have anybody else, so he has to start. And looking at the bench, yes, Gray and who else came on?
Bergvall came on later.
Bergvall. They give us fresh legs, but the quality isn't there. They're not going to change the game for us. It's especially if we're chasing the game. If we're up by a goal or two, they can definitely help. But if we need a goal, they're not the ones who make that happen. So
yeah,
definitely agree with that. I think that's a fair observation. In terms of the bench. Yeah, I think that's a fair observation. Any manager in that situation, you look, even put it to yourself. You're playing on consoles. You turn to that bench. It's not one that you expect to come on and change game for you. It's one that you bring on when you're winning to give it relieve other people rather than go and chase a game. You're absolutely spot on, Eugene. Eugene, anything else you want to get off your chest before you let you go, buddy?
No. That said, I'm angry, but I'm not surprised. I'm still, really disappointed in players who have consistently, let us down, like Madison and Bissouma.
Yeah.
I want those sold next year, or if possible. Just they don't have what it takes to carry the team, and the ambition of the club. We'll see it in this transfer window. If we make it through December, we're still in the cups. The business that we do will tell us everything that we need to know about the board and about what they want to do. If we don't bring anybody in, we can say Ange in, Ange out. It doesn't matter, which the answer to.
I won't be saying Ange in, Ange out. I'll be saying Lange in, Lange out. Langer, whatever you want to call him. Get him out.
Yeah, exactly. 70 million spent on the kids, even though I think they'll be good players, but given our needs and given the state of our bench, that's just unacceptable if we don't bring anybody else in. And now let's see if we bring if we bring in a goalkeeper and a left back. If we don't, we're done.
Yeah. It certainly doesn't help improve the situation if you don't address the positions that need to be addressed. Absolutely spot on, Eugene. I look forward to speaking to you on Thursday on the pre-match show, my man. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thanks as always.
Bye, guys. Thank you, as always, Eugene. See you soon.
Absolute legend. Do you know what? To be fair to Eugene, I don't think he said, I don't think you can really disagree with a lot of what he said there. I think it's an absolute
the same thing.
Yeah, great call, and he hit the nail on the head. Anything you want to say before we keep moving on, Jack?
No, I was actually going to say the exact same thing. I was going to say a lot of it actually was, even if you might feel slightly differently, on whatever thing, a lot of it really wasn't that controversial. I think what Eugene had to say was very balanced and very fair takes on it all. Very well said, says Eugene from Tottenham Tom. Good to see you, Tottenham Tom. But yeah, let's keep things rolling. Got some other people in the house that are waiting their turn. Thanks to all the support that we've received thus far. Please smash the like button, everybody. And, anybody who's gifted a membership by DB, feel free to make your appearance, because we still have a decent queue. But if you want to come on, wait your turn, have your say, certainly welcome to. But we have the one and only Edward. We were speaking to him earlier. Eddie, any new revelations about the game for us?
Any new revelations? No, none really. I'm still feeling the same way. Shit game. Not many people to give praise to, except for the back line. That we've talked to already. Backline's the only one to give praise, but we can't heap so many praises on anyone else because it just was shit from the get-go. We didn't look like winning the game at all. And it's not what you want to see at home. You want to see us winning. You want to see us actually looking like we'll win, but we didn't look like we were going to win that game at all. And it was a very big disappointment, and we should be doing better. It was just disgusting to see.
What do you make of we haven't spoke about Sonny, to a large extent yet. What do you make of the Sonny situation, Eddie? Is he past it? Is he cooked? Is it over? Is he just nursing an injury? What do you think is going on? Bad performance, nothing to make a big deal of. What do you make of maybe Sonny's missed some big chances in the past couple of games too?
Yeah, he's starting to turn into Timo, so I don't know. With the chances he's missing, because some of the chances you're missing would have changed games. Had he scored those early chances, we could be talking about a total different game. We might have went away with it at that point. Because we see that after we score a goal, it can change very quickly in our favor. This is still during the first half, mind you, so it definitely could have still changed in our favor had we scored that early goal. So I don't know what to make about Sunday, because every single time we doubt it, it goes out there and puts in a really good performance. So I don't know where I'm at with Sonny at the moment. He's definitely, you can definitely see he's getting older. He is there. Still doesn't have the age. And had we had someone on the bench who could have come on for him, it would have subbed Sonny off that game. I think at 60 minutes or 70 minutes, Ainge probably would have subbed him off had we had a winger to bring on. But apart from Kulu, we didn't have anyone to sub him off and to give him rest time because he's still nursing an injury, I feel like, and I feel like probably won't see how good Sonny can be for a while. Or even for the rest of the season, we might not see Sonny, the best of Sonny for the rest of the season. He might just be over that hill. Who can tell? But we'll see what he does against Bournemouth, if he starts, if he plays. Hopefully he does, and hopefully he can put it in 9 out of 10 performance, 10 out of 10 performance, and we can get another win.
It's hard to know what's Sonny. Look, for me, I'm going to wait until maybe, January, see where he's at by then and sort of judge it, because I think it's too early to sort of call. I think it could be a case where he's just feeling the effects of an injury. He's building himself back up to match sharpness. But it could also, if he hasn't really produced the numbers by January, then I think it probably is a telltale sign that maybe you have to start having discussions about maybe him in decline and what do you do next. But if he is in decline, I mean, Tottenham have to go and get another superstar very, very quickly. Eddie, Ben Davies on the new contract situation. I'm not sure we spoke about. Did we speak about that earlier?
You mentioned it. Could he just be performing because of the new contract that could be hanging over his head? Well, take that
out of the situation. That's just my feelings. I think they're valid. You got it. Everyone has to respect my opinions anyway. It's 2024 now. We're in that age. But Eddie, when it comes to Ben Davies, what way do you view him? Is he reliable? Is he a player that's past that needs to be shipped on? And if you're Ange Postecoglou, would you give him a new contract? And what's the reasons behind it? Well, actually, to be fair, Postecoglou will make the decision. The club will. But if you're the club, what do you do?
Club. Look, I think the club should talk to Ainge about this because I feel like he does have something to offer this club. I feel like he could still be a good leader in the dressing room, even if it's not officially part of the leadership group. I feel like he is. He's been at the club the longest out of all our players currently, so he knows the club in and out, and he knows a lot about the club. And I feel like he is reliable. He's definitely been the most reliable player this season so far. I feel like other than Kulusevski, who's been pretty consistent this season, I feel like Davies is just alongside him. He just 9 out of 10 performances. He's done well.
Sorry, I just want to address this comment here quickly. He says, do you blokes ever stop mourning? We were 10 players short against Fulham before the game. You were denigrating Fraser Forster, who was man of the match. You were the pressure to listen to. Look, first of all, you're more than entitled to your opinion, no problem. But I would like your opinion to actually be based off what we've said over the whole show rather than the 2 minutes that you've tuned in and you don't like hearing. And second of all, I've made very clear this channel, it is based on Spurs fans' opinions, based on the news that's out there and stuff like that. We give our opinions based off it. And I'm sorry to say to you, but it's not all on one side where it's fully happy and the best of absolutely everything. We've sat here for about an hour now, and we've said injuries come and pay a price. I've spoke about hurting Jurgen Klopp last year, Guardiola this year, Arsenal this year, but somehow you haven't factored that into your comment. Instead, you just want to say I'm moaning. Ironic that. I'm sorry, I'll take fair criticism. But just to say, come on, I'm moaning, I'm depressing and all that sort of shit, you're entitled to your opinion, but that's not the reality. There's plenty of praise I give this club, plenty of praise I give players, plenty. And in fact, I've actually backed Ange Postecoglou, and I've given so many reasons why I think he needs backing. I think the problem is you just want your opinion heard. Well, there's plenty of other channels out there that might suit your opinion. I'm sorry we don't, but I'm not going to tailor mine. This is for the fans, and this show is all about fans coming on and having their opinion, expressing themselves. I'm not going to censor them or tell them what to say. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to do it.
I mean, just only 2 minutes ago, I was just asking Eugene, if we should give Ange a lot of leniency, over this month because of all the injuries. That might be one of the most positive hopium type questions you could have asked, really, basically. I basically just said, can you write off the next month because we're in that much of a tough situation, basically. I couldn't be more positive, basically, with that question. And then the other thing too is, felt like you hadn't even listened for more than a minute before you started even typing that paragraph. So I don't know. Seems like you should probably make your mind up very quickly there. Bottleneck. And also, I mean, what are we supposed to be grinning ear to ear, after like the draw either? I don't know. Get it.
Yeah, have a placard with thank you, for the players. Thank you for the point against Fulham at fucking home. If it was Fulham away, I would say, do you know what? Last few years, that's been difficult. Not a bad point in hindsight. When it's Fulham at home, I'm sorry. My opinion is, and it's always been, you got to take 3 points. There's no point in going beating Man City, Aston Villa, Man United in the fashion that we do, as enjoyable as it is, because then you're not making up any ground. You're not making anything when you're slipping to the likes of Fulham, Ipswich, Crystal Palace, Leicester, teams like that. You got to be beating them. Then when you take points off the big teams, that's what makes the difference come the end of the season and you catching them. I'm sorry. Maybe we just see football different ways. But sorry, Eddie, over to you, my man.
No.
We were talking about Sonny. I think we need
whatever you want to talk about.
We could give him another question. I think we were talking about Sonny there. I mean, what do you make of or you were talking about the Ben Davies contract, I believe. If he extra.
The Ben Davies contract. He is I don't know where to sit on it truthfully, because he is, of course, getting on the age, but do we keep him around as a sort of leader for the youngers coming in and try and lead them into this sort of squad? Because even though he's not part of the leadership group, I do feel like he is technically the longest servant of this club, and I feel like he should have the right to stick around and help the young kids, bring them on food for the club. And he has been good this season, quite good, probably a more consistent performance. And like I said, other than Kulusevski. And I wouldn't mind him keeping him around, because I just feel like he could offer us some stuff off the bench, because he is a bit like a Romero type. Except left footer, he does offer some more long balls and some better passing from out the back. He's very good on the ball, and he's got a good game sense. He has that knowledge of and wisdom of age and wisdom of just experience of how to play the game and how to react to the game. As we saw against Fulham, he made a lot of good last-minute tackles and a lot of good interceptions, because he read the game. He read the right. So I wouldn't mind keeping him around and giving him a new contract. But that's just me. Other people might mind because of he's just getting on there in age, and we shouldn't be keeping around fossils like him. But it's just my opinion. He's not that old. He's younger than Sonny. So, like, if we're keeping Sonny around, I know Sonny's a world-class player, but keeping him around, we should try and consider keeping Davies around. So that's my thought on Davies and his contract.
And then maybe another question for you, Eddie, is on Brennan Johnson, for this season. Do you kind of just feel pretty content with what he's contributed? Do you feel like, he has frustrated you maybe with recent performances? What do you just make of him? Because without him, we wouldn't have scored, you have to take away 10 goals, but at the same time, it seems like kind of recent performances, it's like he kind of is just there for that one little moment in a game and then kind of just disappears for the rest. I mean, what do you make of Brennan Johnson? Like, where are you at with him?
Well, I don't want to say anything because Drew might come and kill me in my sleep, but yeah, it's a fine line with Johnson, because yes, he's a top club scorer throughout all competitions, but most of those goals are tap-ins. Some of the goals are well put away finishes, but you got to remember he doesn't offer us anything else other than goals. He hasn't. I don't feel like he has many assists this season, if any assists this season. I can't recall him assisting that all this season so far. And he needs to do better. He needs to contribute off the ball. He needs to contribute on the ball. He needs to do better than just scoring goals and scoring tap-ins. He needs to get assists. He needs to be involved. That's what a winger is. A winger isn't just there to score goals. They're there to assist, and they're there to affect games while others can't. And you saw against Fulham, I pointed it out, and analysts, he was in the perfect position to play Paul through for his run and to get Paul to target, even cross in if he had then in confidence in the injured leg he had, or just get more threatening to that box and get us a goal because he passed it back to Basuma, and that was just no doubt that would have pissed Ainge off to hell because that is infuriating me and would infuriate Ainge more because passing back, couple of seconds left to play. What are you doing, lad? You got to go runner, play the runner. He's open. Just do it, and he just didn't. And it's infuriating me. It probably infuriated a lot of people, but I expect better from Johnson, and I expect better from the whole front line because it was just disappointing performance from all of them.
No, I couldn't agree more, Eddie. But look, thank you very much for your time this evening, my man. Really appreciate it. And your support over on TIFO as well, lad. It's unwavering. Yeah. So really appreciate it and thank you very, very much, my man. Any last things you want to say to the Spurs fan base before we let you go?
No, lads. Just keep the faith, guys. Keep the faith. I still have hope for trophies this season. I haven't completely written off Premier League left. I thought it's mathematically impossible. Then I'll write off the season. But until then, I'm keeping faith with Ainge, keeping faith with these players, and I'm hoping come January we rock this the squad up and go by a big player because we do need a big player to affect the squad. Whether it's a winger, whether it's a fullback, a centre back, there's someone to add competition to the squad and actually gives the players something to think about because they can't be safe. I don't want any player to have a safe position in the squad. They need to know that there's someone behind them who can take that in an instant. That is what I want. And yeah, just keep the faith, guys. But I'm going to go wrangle some of the guys for clubs or Russ will do something like that. So I'll leave you guys to this.
I might get on tonight, my man, 100%. Just quickly, T says, Eddie, do you ever laugh when Ange rips at the players?
Oh, 100%. I love it when he does it because you don't see it often. Ainge is a sort of calm person. You don't see him whips at players that often, and especially out in public. I think we've seen him do it probably 4 times since he joined the club. Did it once in the first ever game he managed to us for West Ham in Australia. He whipped at the players, and then another time he did it at Chelsea, and then he did it recently again. And then there was another one, I think, was it Roma? He whipped at the players again. He's getting more often, and you might see it more often, guys. So bring me a chuckle.
But anyway, we have a habit of bringing stuff out of managers there, that they don't really exuberate at other clubs. But Eddie, thank you very much for your time this evening. I'm sure I'll speak to you in a while, my man.
Yeah, see you after.
Have a good one,
sir. Have a good one, sir.
Enjoyed that. Thank you, Eddie. Absolute legend. Big up Eddie Eagle. Shows us so much support, and especially on TIFO as well. Really enjoy his contribution. So big up the Eagle. And look, unwavering behind Ange Postecoglou, but even he's starting to crack a little. So Tottenham, what are you doing? If you're cracking Eddie, then you're doing something wrong. Let's take a couple more comments. King Huddle says, I am not a Ben Davies fan, although I did once defend him regarding the goal we conceded versus Villa, which got me into an argument with Big Dave over here. No, look, I just think, when I'll argue my point, and I do think, last season he was at fault for a lot of goals, but people sort of made excuses for him. And, people just said, oh, Dave, it's because you hate on Ben Davies. But I think as they've learned this season, unfair. If he's performing well, then I'll give them praise, no problem whatsoever. But King Huddle, it's only temporary, my man. Big up. Great to have you on board. We've got International Observer. Spurs have to learn how to use the transfer window and start paying for quality. Does BJ replace Kane? Even when you add Solanke, do they replace Kane? We refuse to buy top quality. International Observer, that was my whole, and that's why I was one of the only ones, on social media saying we shouldn't sell Harry Kane because we are not going to replace him. And even if you take the money, I don't back the club to replace him adequately with the right players. And that's why I had the opinion I had. And look, there we are now. Everyone's screaming about the quality, in terms of across the forward line and stuff like that. Well, hate to say it, but I told you so. So next time when we talk about selling one of our best players, let's actually put up a bit more resilience towards it next time instead of rolling over, making the board's job easy and go, no problem, take the money and then replace it with crap. So, look, on that one, I'm not going any further. He also says, I respect Ben Davies, but he epitomizes Spurs' current plight and better start standing up far more players, and he has to stop this pickiness and also buying specialists. Too much talk of multitasking. look, to be honest with you, I know there's a lot made about, you know, all the managers pick this player and that player and stuff like that. I just wonder when we're going to learn a lesson that it's not the managers picking all the players that walk in this door. When you operate under a director of football, the reason why you've got a director of football is because he's the one overseeing talent, spotting talent, and bringing it to the football club for the manager to work with. When we bring in a manager, there's an element where they might get 2-3 players that they've genuinely wanted. After that, it's all about compromising and whatever the DLF wants you to work with. And if people think I'm talking bollocks, just go to the Gaffer documentary that Sky Sports put out. A lot of big managers in the game all explain that. Go and listen to the likes of Sam Allardyce, David Moyes of recent times on podcasts that they've done. They'll also explain that it's not the manager that has wholesale over the players. And they actually address it. They say everyone thinks we're buying the players. It's just not happening in modern day football that that's the case. And I do agree with this. We need in the Munster number 6, stop buying backups and buy competitive for the squad. Absolutely agree with that for sure, my man. Absolute big up. We got Rick Nails as well. Good to see we even the brothers' injuries, illnesses are stopping the flow of Ange ball now. Still believing, come on, you look, you know, despite people, you know, when they tune in and I have one bad thing to say, I am actually behind Ange Postecoglou. I don't believe that all the problems people are putting on him are all his fault. I think there has to be a degree of realism among Spurs fans that a manager needs more than 14 to 15 months in the job, 16 months, whatever it is, to really change Tottenham's fortunes. We're not just talking about a whole new squad. We're talking about changing the mentality of the club. And we've had some of the best in football come here to try and do it. And they all, people wanted them out, called them clueless, everything else. I don't subscribe to that. I think stability is what's needed, because if you keep chopping and changing managers, then the questions come around. But, well, what have we really spent our money on? Well, if you keep chopping and changing directions, you're spending your money on different specifics and stuff like that. But if you stick under one philosophy, one manager, eventually you get the squad to where you need it to be. Big up, Ricky Nato. I know it sounds like rocket science, and this isn't towards you, Ricky Nato. This is just in general. I know it sounds like rocket science, but in reality, it's actually really not rocket science, to be quite frank. Big up, Handball. Good to see you. Big up, lads, in the chat. The problem with Spurs expecting and embracing signings like Johnson, Richarlison, Gray, etc., and allowing all boys like Davies and Forrester to kick about. Serious lack of ambition. Absolutely spot on, my man. Big up, DB. Says, hardest working guys in Spurs business don't know how you do it. Do you know what, DB? I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it, you know, but when you're not winning, it becomes extremely tough. When you lose, and I have no problem saying this, when you lose, it's tough, you know, and I get where people put the comments in and go, it's negative, blah, 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 and I get it. But people know me, you know what I mean? I'm fair. If things aren't going well, I'll have the conversation. I'll say, well, I think it's not going well. And if things are going well, I'll say, well, it's going well. And often, sometimes I don't agree with the narrative, and I say, well, this is the way I look at it. So I think we're quite fair. But it really is hard when you lose, DB. But, you know, we're here. And at the end of the day, I genuinely do love it. And for me, it's just about speaking to people, you know, so many different opinions, the therapy, you know, all that sort of good jazz. And do you know what? The laughter's when you're winning. It trumps absolutely everything, my man. So big up, DB. But look, let's keep it moving. The next guest we have on is Chris. We've got 3 guests left, and this will be it for the evening. It's Chris, it's Sean, and then it is Michael. Let's bring on Chris here. Right, yes, say good evening, Chris. How are you?
Right, David, before we get started on the show, yeah, I just want to go back to Bottleneck's comment, yeah. I don't appreciate hearing what he just said there, yeah. I've been with the Irish Hotspur for 3 years. You and Jack have always valued everybody's opinion, no matter if it's negative or positive. What he said there banged out of order, and that was not necessary.
Appreciate
everybody has entitled. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion and own values of how they support Tottenham Hotspur. I supported the club for 33 years. Yeah, and I'll always say what I want to say about Tottenham. Never, even if Dave and Jack don't agree with me, I'll still say what I'm going to say. End story. There was no need for that comment.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right.
Very kind of you, Chris.
Right now, good evening, everybody. Smash that like and get your super chats in. Let's get on with the football.
Chris,
No,
I mean, where do you start? I mean, the injuries are mounting up. I think the whole spine has been ripped out of the team, but were you expecting something more from that game?
Look, let's go back to it, yeah? Rinse, repeat, do it again. Last season, roughly around the same time of year, we ended up with the same sort of injuries. Van de Ven, Romero, all injured. Madison was out injured, etc., etc., etc. And we went through that blip. So it's really to repeat it again. The transfer model that we have, David, the transfer model we had this season has totally ballsed us up. This using this computer science nonsense. Instead of going out and looking at the players physically and saying, these are the attributes I want, this is what I need, it hasn't been followed. They've gone by the data. This is what's screwed up. That's why we've gone with youngsters. And if Johan Langer doesn't pull his finger out in the January transfer window, he needs to walk out. Simple as that.
No, I agree with that. I think he up the summer transfer window absolutely massively. You back the club to open the checkbook and go, well, what can the club realistically do in January to help this project? No, Chris, we all agree we need it, but it's a very hard window to sort of operate in. Get your business done right in the summer, you're screwed in January.
David, it was hard under Conte, but he still has to bring in Bentancur and Kulusevski. We need a number 6 for sure. We need to bring in a solid number 6 because Bentancur's out for 7 games. This ain't going to last those 7 games because he's going to get injured or skin cells suspended. Birdwell is still not experienced enough to play in the Premiership. Gray's not been given enough time. There's nobody really. I was frustrated yesterday at the Tottenham game. I believe Ange did make a bit of a cock up yesterday in that team lineup. Instead of starting Werner, he should have started Kulu and brought Timo off the bench because you know what Timo's like. When he comes off the bench, he's full of pace, full of energy.
Less so starting games.
Yeah, less so starting games. However, it's one of those games. Marco Silva knew exactly what he was doing, but Ange, with his substitutions, I looked at the bench. He was reluctant, but Porro, 17 giveaways of the ball. He could see Porro was shattered, but he left him on. He could have brought Jeff Spencer at any time to replace him. Even Udoji was the same, knackered. He could have brought him off and brought Spencer on, but he's just reluctant to use him. Forgetting that it was Spence who saved us against Coventry. So, David, I don't know where to go.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Chris. It was Spence that said, sort of helped us spark us into life on that little run since the Coventry game. Then, look, there was a period where he had been injured and hasn't been available to use him, to be fair. But lately, why do you think he's less inclined to give Porro that rest and give Jed Spence that opportunity? Because actually, in Johnny's fan cam yesterday, he said at one point Jed Spence was getting ready to come on, and then he was told to sit back down again.
I don't know. Do you know, David, I really don't know, but it's something that's seriously got to be drastically wrong for Spence not to be at least getting the last 20 minutes or half an hour. Bringing Bergwijn and Graham was absolutely pointless. We should have had somebody creative like Madison still on the pitch because they were down to 10 men, would have probably done the trick. We could have scraped out a 2-1 victory. But for whatever reason, Andrew just decided to take Lumpoff's son, Madison, and think Bergwijn and Gray were going to do the trick. I'm sorry, but Andrew did make a bit of a flop there. But Son is also, let me address Son as well. Son can't play as a number 9. We all know this. Yesterday, he was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
One of the worst performances I've seen of Son for a while.
Missing chances too, Chris, the past 2 games with Sonny.
Invisible. Madison, brilliant game against Man City. Invisible yesterday. Players need to realise one thing. You're playing 38 games in a season. You're not playing Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool and Chelsea. You've got to turn up every game, even if it's Fulham and Ipswich.
If only we could just put whatever team we're playing against at home in Man City jerseys, we'd probably be better off. Then we'd probably be putting in better performances. But with Chris,
probably Jack. I don't know, but yesterday there was just such a negative vibe about the team, a negative vibe in the stadium. It was just a pure negative day.
Is it more the front 3 that was the worst? The midfield? What was kind of the worst part of what you said, the team? What was letting us down the most?
Midfield and the front 3. There's probably 3 players who can take any credit from yesterday. Was Forster, Dragonson, and Davies. They're the only probably 3 who can take any credit. The rest of them just didn't show up.
Yeah.
It was just a pathetic performance.
Oh,
And you know what, David? It wasn't even an upsetting performance. It was a depressing performance.
No.
Yeah,
It
that's
wa-
what it was.
yeah.
It was just.
It was kind of like
just
the Roma
depressing.
game where it kind of just lacked real energy again, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it lacked energy, and you could feel it from the crowd as well. They were like, they're not into the game. And it was just nothing.
hmm I mean,
It was
Chris,
just a negative experience.
what do you make of like Brennan Johnson right now, Chris? Because he's our top scorer, so we have to give him credit for that. But you kind of
Look,
look at the actual
see,
performances; he tends to go missing.
yeah, you see, the thing is, I've seen comments about Johnson's shit, Johnson's this, Johnson's that. Remember, he's got 10 goals this season. It don't matter if you score a 35-yard screamer or a tap-in, it's still going to get you 3 points.
hmm
Yeah, he does go missing, but he's still got, even if he goes missing, he's still got that goal in him to get us the points.
hmm
Some went missing yesterday, he didn't do nothing. Madison went missing, he went done nothing.
You feel like, though, for me, Chris,
So,
when he gets into some of those crossing situations, though, and he just doesn't really do very much with them. Like he gets into good areas to create for others, but he doesn't really know how to create for others, or he doesn't really know how to create for himself on a regular basis. He
see,
kind of needs people to create for him, which is fine. That's okay every now and again. But sometimes when we do need him to be that creative presence out wide, just doesn't seem to know how to do it.
see, Jack, he's the opposite to Werner. Werner can create chances for everybody else, but for himself, he's absolutely atrocious.
hmm
For himself, he's absolutely, he wouldn't know where the goal is if even he punched him in the face, to be fair. But he still can create chances. Johnson's the other way around. Yeah, so I don't know, Jack. Yesterday was just a really sour game. It was just a really
Yeah,
off game. Nothing
no, it
to
was.
talk about really about it, to be fair. I'm not
Well,
even upset. I was just like, yeah, well, whatever. What happens, happened, because it was just such a dead game. It was just one of those games where you thought, what's the point?
I felt that way with Roma too. Felt a bit dead, despite all the chances we had. There just didn't seem to be real,
Energy.
care
No,
or
there's no
real
energy.
urgency in the game.
There was no energy. It just lacked
Yeah.
energy. I don't know. It was missing something, but I can't think exactly what it is. It was just missed something where there was no fire, there was no fight, there was no spirit. And Solanke is a big miss. To be fair, he is. He's the one who can hold up the ball, get the ball out to Sonny, get the ball out to Johnson, can spread the play a bit. There was nobody holding the ball up. It was a case of our defense had the ball, played up front, it came straight back to us. Played the ball back up front, ball comes straight back to us again. It was just constant. It was just constant, that game. The whole game was like that. From minute one, when I see some miss that chance, I thought this is going to be that sort of game. And it was depressing. I was actually depressing. Not even angry or frustrated, just depressing.
Yeah. No, it did have just sort of a downbeat and kind of nature to it. What do you make of Ben Davies, though? He's one of the positives, Chris. Once again, we're showing him tons of praise, and rightfully so. Do you want him to end on a high, or would you start to think about renewing that contract? You're already shaking that.
I don't want to give him another contract, to be fair. Yeah, he's done brilliantly this season, and hats off to him for stepping up when he needed to do the most. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well done. But as I think it was Eugene, give him a contract as a coach, but nothing more. Nothing more. Let him work with the youth to train them up to be a left centre back. Because I think he would do good at that, because he knows his stuff. He does. Let's be realistic. He does. He does it for Wales and he does it for Tottenham. He actually does step up when he needs to. Maybe it was Eric Dyer and Sanchez making Davies look bad. Who knows? But we don't look. I don't think another year from now. I think we should take him off the books as a player. Maybe give him a coaching role and use those funds to buy a younger left centre back who we can train up and have experience.
Mm-hmm. I kind of rather
yeah. In saying that, though, Jack, my only worry is if we get somebody young and experienced, we're going to follow this data-driven model, yeah. And if this data-driven model is not working for Tottenham, it works at other clubs, but for Tottenham, you need some experience in there, somebody who's got that know-how already. Because all very well bringing youngsters in, but what are they going to do if they've had no experience in the Premiership?
I feel like we have some good center backs coming through, Chris, though. We have options like Vuskovic, Dorrington, Ashley Phillips.
Yeah.
Like, I think, we have guys, that one of them you would think might be able to step up.
Ruskovic, possibly, yeah. Ashley Phillips, yeah, does well in the Championship. Whether we can do the Premiership, we'll see.
Maybe as a backup, he could.
I actually think
as a backup, yeah,
number 6. I think that's where you'll see him play eventually.
Thornton, I would definitely would like to see give him the chance. What really pissed me off yesterday, to be fair, was bringing Lancashire on the last 2 minutes. He could have given him at least 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Especially for a Premier League debut, it feels a bit harsh on him, you know? Like you'd want to give him more than that for his Premier League debut.
2 minutes. What was he supposed to do in 2 minutes? Nothing. It was, what can he do? He could have been brought on the 80th minute and had that 17 minutes. And you know what? He probably could have scored his first Premiership goal. He scored against Galatasaray in the Europa League. Yeah. So why not?
Yeah. No, I agree.
All it takes is a tap in, you know, with 10 minutes to go. Like that's all you need to do. Tap in, you know, be at the right place at the right time. That's kind of what it's for. But if you give him 2 minets, I mean, how's he even going to get to touch the ball in 2 minutes? You know, that's
exactly. It's exactly that. Yeah. But as I said yesterday, with a lot of mixed emotions for me, like just shrug my shoulders. Like, what else do I say? There's nothing you can say about it.
Look, it is getting to the point where, you know, people are starting to lose interest, you know, because of the up and down nature and all, you know, they're sort of sick of it, you know, they just want results on and stuff.
It's not so much losing interest, Dave. It's more frustration because we know what's needed, but the club doesn't understand it. They're just going, but the data-driven model at Brighton works, the data-driven model at Brentford works, at this club works, but no club operates the same. So whether that data-driven approach works at Aston Villa does not necessarily mean it's going to work at Tottenham, especially with the chairman not willing to put as much money as what other chairmen probably would.
Yeah.
No, to be fair, I can't really. I'm not going to go into the chair, Daniel Levy, and the rights and wrongs of what he's done and this and that. Can't be bothered with all that. At the end of the day, I just want to see Tottenham play football well and win games.
Yeah.
What was that?
I think a lot of us feel similar to that, Chris.
Yeah. Well, Chris, big up, my man. Great to see you as always. It's absolutely great having you back, my man. Look forward to speaking to you every Monday now.
But David, see, you know, of this last year, I had a lot of issues with personally, and it's taken a lot for me to come back on the camera again after so long. It's still, my confidence is a bit up and down at the moment. So some weeks you'll probably see me, but I won't have the camera on, and I'll still talk. And normally I love a laugh and a joke, but that first comment seriously really pissed me off. Because I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate that, David, at all. Because you and Jack have always given people a fair chance to say exactly what they want to say. And maybe me and you, David, have had arguments over what opinions I've had and what you've had. Right? Especially over Harry Kane. Over Harry Kane. But you still give me the time to give my opinion, and it's fair. Everybody's entitled to their own view of Tottenham Hotspur. That's it.
I just think sometimes people just want us to just be happy 24/7 and, you know, be positive 24/7. And look, I can understand it. You know, in general in life, I am a sort of a positive guy. I am the eternal optimist. Yeah. But you know, when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur and you've been browbeaten over the last 4 or 5 years, and it stops start nature of it, eventually it starts to grate on you a little. But one thing I think I'm fair with. If I don't agree with some negative stuff, I will stick my head up and I will say, look, I don't agree with that. This is the way I look at it. You know, I think we're fair. I don't know.
To me, as I said, I didn't want to come on with a negative vibe and a negative attitude, but it's when things are said like that, which are not true at all. Because if they actually started to listen to the show from the start of the show, they would see that we were bringing. There was a lot of positives, but there was negatives there as well. So you can't say, "Oh, this is always a negative stream." Well, it's not. If you actually watch the show fully, you would understand that every Tottenham supporter from all around the world would have their own view. From the US, from Ireland, from London, from Newcastle, from wherever you are, we all have our own perspectives and the story.
Do you know what? What I say is, how dare you pay so much money to follow Tottenham Hotspur and, you know, give your own opinion on it? How dare you? But, Chris, thank you very much. Absolutely love the support, buddy.
Legend, Chris.
Really great to see you.
Appreciate you, General.
3 years, David. 3 years.
I love it, lad. I love it. And look, when we're over next thing, hopefully, you know, you can arrange to get down. Well, that's it. He doesn't want to meet us. He doesn't love us that much now. I think his phone must have died, but I'm sure he'll listen back. Chris, we will be over there this year. It'd be great if you're down that way again, my man, to be able to meet up. And it's great to have you back. I think I speak on behalf of everybody here. You're a well-loved member of the Irish Hotspur community, so it's absolutely great to have you back, buddy, and really appreciate the kind words. But look, let's keep it moving. We are down to the last two guests of the evening. It is Shaie Maddox, and then we will be ending off with the Big Mick. Let's bring on Shaie. Let's hear what he has to say. Shaie, how are you?
Hey,
how
Sean.
are you feeling after yesterday's game?
Better now that I've stopped thinking about it too much. Been distracted with some FIFA and some other stuff.
We're here to bring you down again.
I mean, I feel like I'm more apathetic at this point. Again, I just feel like I've seen this same script multiple times, so I'm not angry because at a certain point you start to expect it in the game. I mean, I think you can see in the chat when everyone's like, I think they're going to score. It looks like we're about to crumble. And it just happens too frequently.
Yeah. What do you put that down to, though, Sean? Like you said, it happens way too frequently. And look, we can sit here and theoretically we can put it on the manager, but the same happened under Conte. The same happened under Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, well, I think there are different variations of it. But, I mean, I think, honestly, with Conte and Jose, I think it was they were using terrible tactics trying to have Eric Dyer keep a clean sheet for 90 minutes. You were always doomed to fail when you were relying on Davidson Sanchez and Dyer to be kind of strong at the back. Under this system, we're not necessarily relying on that. I actually feel like where we tend to lose the most is in that midfield. I actually think the defense tends to hold up better in terms of the overall backline. I mean, there's still some times when Romero loses focus or Porro doesn't, or Udogie doesn't close down that man at the back post. But I think more of our games are lost in midfield, at least under Ange and in this system, than under the Conte system, where it really came to the other team beating like both of our center backs in one-on-ones.
No, I would agree with that. I would agree with this. What do you think is the problem with that midfield then, Sean? Because, look, my dad is actually of a similar opinion of yourself. He says, look, that midfield ain't right. And until you get the midfield right, the same shit is going to keep happening, the same inconsistency. So what do you think is the problem, or what's off with the balance in there then?
I mean, I think the biggest problem is the lack of a number 6. The way that those two 8s play, especially when you have Madison in as an 8, you're not providing as much kind of defensive cover as you would if you maybe had the double pivot plus the cam. So you need someone who's who's kind of lights out, who will really read the game and shut things down. And again, when we have Bentancur in the squad, he's closer to that. Again, I think Bentancur doesn't quite have the physicality to keep that up for 90 minutes and to maybe be as effective at shutting things down. But he's so good at reading the game that and pretty good with the dark arts that he can get by. But that I think that's, especially with him out of the squad, we're seeing how much we're missing that. Because Bissouma doesn't have that right skill set. I think Bissouma should be playing in that Sarr role as one of the 8s. He doesn't have the mentality for that 6. So I think strengthening that would help a lot. Because I think it would alleviate some of the pressure on that defense. It would force them to go out wide, at which point you do need to kind of get probably some competition in for those fullbacks. because there have been times where Udogie and Porro just aren't up to it. But I also think they're probably overplayed because we don't have any competition or rest.
Yeah. It's actually an area of the pitch that, if people remember, Pochettino actually used to change the most with his system, the rotation of the fullbacks.
Yeah, no, but again, I think if you can solve those two problems, you fix a lot of the defensive frailty. And part of the problem is when you lose that midfield, you then get pushed back and you cannot press. We've had issues where the forward line has been lazy and hasn't been pressed, but that's slightly different from the kind of being pushed back so far because we're losing that midfield and are kind of getting overrun. And because, again, the Ange Ball system doesn't work if you're pinned back in your own system, or so far. You have to find a way to break through that press. And that's what Bentancur sometimes allows, but that's what we haven't seen out of Bissouma at that 6 role.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I completely agree with you when it comes to Bissouma. I think it's one of my biggest frustrations. I think in possession he takes far too much risk. I think he vacates that area of the pitch far too often as well for him to really become effective in that role. I'm at the point, maybe come the summer, I wouldn't mind shifting him on and maybe looking at, bringing someone else in, because that's a few managers now where he just he hasn't really performed under, to be quite frank. Where do you stand on the whole Son criticism, Shawnee? He's coming for a lot off the back of this game. A lot of people said he's finished.
I don't think he's fully finished, but I think it's fairly clear you're seeing those signs of a decline, which means you have to manage his minutes. Spurs don't have any other wingers, so he doesn't get the rest. They're not managing his minutes. And then he comes out there and he looks exhausted and isn't as effective as he could be. And it comes down, that I think is definitely not helped a little bit by the injury crisis, being all of our wingers to some degree. I don't know why he was in the center. Put Brennan Johnson in the center. He's been banging in goals constantly, and he can't cross or create anyways, so he doesn't need to be out wide.
Does that solve the issue, though, Sean? Does he have the physicality? Are we going to go into the same mistakes people made with Son? He's a striker, and then I'm trying to tell everybody he doesn't have the phicality to play up there. And 6 months later, everyone's screaming the same thing I was. Are we going to enter the same thing with Brennan Johnson?
I'm not saying leaving up there permanently. I'm saying if you have to choose between Son or Johnson, Johnson is a better fit for that center forward role because he offers less on the wing than Son does. If you put Son on the wing, I think you would get more out of Johnson, and you could stick Kulu in that right wing. I think we have more flexibility. So I think it was a weird decision to put Sonny central.
Do I worry about the, people saying, we've more flexibility. I think that's if you think Johnson can play up front.
Well,
I don't think he can, and that's the thing. So I don't think the flexibility is quite there.
We know Sonny can't play up front, so why not put Johnson there? Because I think
Johnson's half the player Son is. If Son can't play up front with all the ability he has, what hope has Johnson got?
All we want is Johnson to get in there and tap in goals.
There's more to that than playing striker.
Yeah, isn't a lot of it the hold-up play that we get from Solanke?
But
he has to do something similar to that.
People were guilty of saying the same thing under Son. All you need him to do is bet ball in the back of the net. There's a lot more to striker. We've seen that.
No, Dave, but I don't want him there. It's because we don't have other options that if you would get a lot more of Son out on the wing because he's so good on that wing, where if you put Johnson inside, he's not going to be a brilliant forward, but I think he'll be passable, and we could put someone else on the right wing while we wait for Solanke to be available. That it's not a permanent conversion. It's a temporary fix. I think it makes more
But that's
sense.
what I'm saying. I don't even think it is a temporary fix. I just don't think he could play up there. I think, I agree with you in terms of I think Ange had to do a couple of little things differently. But, to sit there and say, the flexibility and stuff, Johnson is not a striker. He's not a striker. And, there's a lot more to the game than just being in the right place at the right time, putting the ball in the back of the net. And I don't think people factor that in. It was the same thing with Son last year. Put him up front, it'll be grand. All you need to do is score goals. And then 6 months in, everyone's screaming, he can't play with his back to goal. He's losing the ball. He's costing us games and stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying. I don't even think it is a solution for one game.
Yeah, no, I would agree to disagree. Again, my only point is I don't think
disagree, but I was
Son-
right on Son, so I think it's going to be a similar case with Johnson.
No, what I would say is I don't think Son can play forward, but I think if we played Son on that wing, we get more out of Son in that game. Where I think the drop-off of Johnson at the center forward versus the right wing, I think is less than the drop-off of Son going to forward and having someone else on the left wing. That's my point. I think is marginally better.
I think you should have played Kulu up front and kept either of them on either side, to be quite frank.
I think that might have... I still think that might have been better. I'm just saying, I think of all of the people we could have played at forward, Sonny was going to be much lower on the list because I think if we played him on that left wing, he would have been a lot better.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you.
The problem is we're playing Sonny too much, and he doesn't have the legs for it anymore. And I think that's the issue is we're not managing his minutes effectively. Like, if you see what Pep was doing with De Bruyne, I mean, De Bruyne is getting older and has even less legs, but Pep was using him strategically a lot, especially last season. So when he came in, he was fresh and he could impact games. And that's what we're not doing with Sonny. He's not getting any rest or breaks.
I agree.
So again, I think that's a bit of the challenge is because again, Son will never be the player that he was 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
He cannot start every game for the entire season. He just isn't that, but that doesn't mean he cannot be useful if we do a better job managing his minutes.
No, I definitely agree with that. We've got, you don't have enough players that step up, even though he's not contributing as regularly as he wants. He still sort of contributes overall in the game more regularly than most of the players. And I think the problem we've got now is, do we have that player that we say, yeah, he can take them out to drive us for an impact game? What? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Go on.
Yeah, it's kind of chopping up.
You're chopping up a little, Dave. But no, again, I think I agree with Dave is that Son still has plenty to offer the club. I just don't think we can use him the same way we have previously. We got to be a lot more selective about when we play him. But again, I think he probably at least has another 2 years of still being a top quality player, but he probably only has about half of the games per season.
I could agree with that. It's probably the case. I don't think he should be able to play 70 games, in a season. I don't think he is that sort of player that would be able to do that. I don't think many players can at the age that he is, especially if you're playing in the Premier League, which certainly takes a lot out of you. It's not like you're playing in Liga or like La Liga or something like that against like a Mallorca or something. You're coming up against top level outfits on a regular basis. So I definitely would agree with that. Johnny, hopefully get to see you maybe on some clubs at some point this week, sir. Christmas approaching, holidays, busy schedule, sir.
Yeah, no, I've been having a lot of fun just hanging out. I actually was using my Spurs cookie cutter to make some Tottenham Hotspur logo gingerbread cookies. Look, give me a sec. I might still have one that's intact that I haven't eaten yet.
Another Daniel Levy.
Quality.
I mean, the store has everything. It's unfair.
Cookie cutters to wallets to belts to bottle openers.
Should hopefully still have one intact. Here, we'll.
That
class.
looks delicious. That looks delicious. Is that shortbread?
Gingerbread.
Gingerbread. Sorry, you probably said that. Lovely time of
You
year
want to
for a
get
little
some
bit of
white
gingerbread.
ice on that?
Well, I like it a little plain.
Uh,
Maybe I'm boring. I kind of like it a little plain. A little plain gingerbread. Looks great, Sean. Those look class.
Yeah, no, but that was my holiday activity. I think as Dave was talking about how much he likes to get into the Christmas spirit.
No, Dave's very much a holiday man.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I love Christmas.
Levy's got my wallet pretty much on lockdown whenever he puts up stuff like that on the Spurs shop. So that's probably what I'll do after I get off the fan show. Let's go see if he's put anything interesting up for sale.
Yeah, I might be doing some shopping on it later.
Sure, you'll get a bargain. But Shawnee, we'll speak to you later on, my man. Have a good evening. Enjoy that cookie.
Come on, you Spurs.
See you, Sean.
See you later, my man.
Have a good one, man.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Big up, Shawnee. Absolute great conversation. Really enjoyed that. And a great cookie, by the way. You know, I think I'll have to get my missus on to that. I'll say, look, Sean can do it. Why can't I have them? So I'll have to get my missus on to that. Absolutely brilliant. I'd probably change it from gingerbread. I'd probably go for a bit of shortbread. I like that suggestion, Jack. But look, down to the last guest of the evening. Let's get him on. Let's hear what he has to say. And Mick, how are you, my man?
Big up, guys. As you can see, I've got myself a microphone.
Sounded even deeper voice and even sexier than usual, Michael. Love that.
Yeah,
Dave.
For all the microsexuals in the comments.
Microphone sexuals
I've done
in the
it
world.
for you.
I think I know Nick really Lazy8 really likes your voice, so I bet he's in heaven right now. Dave, I think your camera has been it's just been a little laggy. Would you want to give a quick refresh and then hop back in? Because it just feels like your audio is a little bit behind your camera, so I think we get.
I don't know what's wrong with it because I have everything closed. I'll do it anyway. I'll log in, log out.
You open one Football London article and then your whole computer crashes.
Oh yeah, that site is horrible. That site is horrible.
That's just because I wanted to prove a point to Bottle Job or whatever his name is. I wanted to prove a point. Anyway.
Michael, I mean, I don't know about you, but I didn't have high expectations with all the injuries and everything. I feel like the whole spine has been ripped out of the team. Yet it feels like when you go into these Spurs games with very little expectations, they still find a way to frustrate you. So I don't know. How do you feel about that game?
It was really a frustrating game to watch. And honestly, I have to be honest, because my Premier League provider does something called multi-league. I think that's the best translation, where basically they do one stream where they jump around the matches, where whenever something is happening in a match, they jump to that match, right? And I'm gonna be honest, I when I looked at the lineup and I looked at the amount of injuries and all that stuff, I thought to myself that I would Chelsea, Aston Villa will probably turn out to be a bit more interesting from football perspective, right? So I watched the multi-league. I had I had our game on a laptop on a separate stream, but I was not fully paying attention to our game, right? But yeah, it's as you said, right? It's this game specifically. Yes, I give a lot of weight to the amount of players that we've had missing, right? But honestly, when I look at it, right, the three players that I was worried about the most were Van de Ven, Romero, and Vicario, right? And I actually think that Forster, Dragusin, and Davies were the ones that actually did I think they were the best players on the team on that day, right? Which was surprising. And honestly, I don't think the issues came from them. And honestly, I would say that even though we missed Solanke, I don't think we had enough stamina and energy to actually fight with Fulham. I don't know if you guys got the same feeling, but when I was watching this match, I had this feeling that it clearly showed that a lot of the team was tired and that they didn't have the stamina. And also you have to take into consideration that Fulham is a really physical team, right? They what they lack in technical quality, they will make up in hard work and physicality and passion and all that stuff, right? So at certain points, it almost felt like we were, I don't want to say like bullied, but that we had issues with like, tiredness. And I think it showed, especially in players like Pedro Porro. I think he was like tired of his nut in that game. And when you are so tired and you are so like exhausted, it affects your game. And the amount of like loose passes he had and losing the ball, right? Yeah, but let's get into more like details. Dave, you wanted to say something? Sorry,
I was going to say, I agree in what you're saying, about Ben Davies, Dragusin, and Fraser Forster stepping up in Romero, Vicario, and Van de Ven's absent. Fair play to them. I think it surprised many. But, when you talk about the fatigue, that's where the rest of the injuries then come in and have that impact, because you can't rest them. You can't make substitutions maybe early in games or that when you want to, so that you can preserve legs in minutes. And look, Richarlison not being available, okay, he hasn't really contributed this season. But if you've got a striker up there, fresh legs up there that can lead that line in Solanke's absence, that's where the other injuries are sort of coming back to bite us, if you get what I'm saying. They may not be contributing a lot, but in terms of fatigue and all, that's where it is. They are coming back to haunt us.
Yeah, and especially in this like festive period, right, where you have to play every 3 games. This is why I fear that Bournemouth game, because they have like, they can rest more. Not now. We all play every 3 days, right? Every team in the Premier League plays every 3 days now, right? But they, over like past couple of months, they had like more breathing room, right? They had overall like, less injuries and all that stuff, right? So I have a certain feeling that, we will also find it really hard to play against Bournemouth, because they are like a similar team to Fulham. That's how I look at it, right? But I also like with the Fulham game, I have to like mention one thing, because like, and I specifically like mentioned the 3 guys in defense that were not the usual like outfit that we put out there, right? I think our issues like yesterday against Fulham came not only because of like the fatigue in fullback's case, but I also felt like we didn't really like adapt to what Fulham were doing. I feel like when they were attacking, they were constantly like putting 2 men either on Udogi or Porro. They were like overloading the sides, right? And they were doing this thing where one guy goes on the outside and one guy goes on the inside, right, between the center back and the fullback. That's like called an underlapping run, if I remember correctly, right? So they were like basically going like that over like Porro and Udogi. And I felt like we like struggled to cope with it. And this was partially because of like the stamina issues, right? I've had like a long discussions about Son, right? And plenty of people are really like, especially for that Fulham game, criticizing Son heavily, right? And for the forward, like, stuff where he missed a one-on-one or whatever, I think he fully deserves criticism, because that's something that we expect of him, right? To finish the chances and to provide us with goals, right? But I also have to say, like, people have to understand that he, like, age catches up to him and it's not his fault, right? And I don't think he has stamina left in him to play 90 minutes of, running back and forth and covering the fullback and being like and contributing in the attack and running back, and he just can't sustain it, right? That's how I look at Son, right? But the issue is, as you said, we have injuries. It's not even like we can substitute him, right? It's so infuriating.
I just want to ask you a question. If we were, look, it's not going to happen, and I don't want it to happen, but if we were to say bring in another pragmatic manager similar to a Jose or Conte, I'd argue it's still not going to suit Son, because he still has to make the long busting runs either way to a certain degree. So is it just a case where other people now have to pick up his slack? Someone like Werner got to do a lot of the pressing work for him. Same with Brennan Johnson, get the younger, fresher guys then to pick up that slack, because usually it is led by Dom Solanke. And look, I've said this myself, I understand. His son's probably the only player at Tottenham that has actually earned the right, due to his age, to sort of say, look, don't do it, other people will do it. Is that there when other people need to do it? Because Johnson and Werner didn't look like they wanted to do that for him yesterday, or pick up that slack. And that's what really pisses me off or alienates me, is like, it's clear that Son can't do that for 90 minutes. But that's when others have to get around and help him out.
Yeah, so, for me, the whole Son situation has 2 solutions, like in brackets 3 solutions, right? for me, one solution is you either like devise a system where he doesn't have to track back as much, right? Which probably like the easiest solution in that case would be going to 3 at the back, playing wing backs, because then wing backs don't need as much cover as they do in like a 4 at the back system, right? But I mean, like harping on about it, we cannot go to a back 3 right now because we don't have enough center backs at the club, even if everyone is fit, right? I think 4 center backs at the club is not enough to play a 3 at the back system. You need to have like 5, preferably 6 center backs, just purely bodies, right? Because like one of them goes down and you have no substitute for the center back, right? Another one goes down like we have right now, and you have to revert back to 4 at the back anyways, right? So that's like a futuristic, solution. And the second solution for me is, honestly, and this is a bit harsh, but I think the second solution is signing a left winger who will take his spot, right? And by that I mean it's only natural for a player like him to either adapt his game where he doesn't the club around him and him himself, he has to like adapt to the fact that he doesn't have the stamina. So he either plays like a more advanced role and doesn't cover at the back, or he plays more of a like, I don't want to use a phrase super sub, but it's like he plays 90 minutes here, 45 minutes here, then he gets a rest, then he plays 60 minutes, 30 minutes, 90 minutes. Like, with the role, if we want to keep him doing the role that he's doing, right? If we want him to cover, which is like the premise of our system is for a winger to cover a wing back, right? Then he cannot play, 90 minutes because he just physically like naturally doesn't have a stamina to do it, right? And I said in brackets like third thing would be that's also like really harsh, but probably selling him, right? But that's like a third, like something that I don't really want to happen, even though I see the decline. I still think he has given so much heart, passion, and like he gave a third of his life for this club, right? So I don't want him to leave. I would preferably see him.
It's not even about the service for me, Michael. Respect to the service. It's just when I look across the forward line, if I trust anybody to have an impact on a game or a big game, it's going to be him. So on that basis alone, that's why I think eventually you're going to have to get into that situation where you do use him more as the impact role, and you sort of pick and choose where you think he's going to have that sort of impact for you, until we buy better players of better quality that can produce it more consistently. Definitely agree with that. Ben Davies, where do you stand on him?
Give him a new contract.
Fans are fickle, Michael. They're forgetting the last 3 years based on this season alone. They wanted to get a new contract.
Yeah, I always say I like giving credit where credit is due, right? So I will definitely commend him for the performances he's been putting in recently, right? I think he has shown like a bit of a side that we've missed in like a season and a half, which was he's like more like a bare bones center back, if you get what I mean. I think if he has to kick it out, he will kick it out. If he has to put his head somewhere, he will put his head somewhere, right? For me, it's when I look at him, he gives you that like more defensive stability, I would say, than like he's more predictable. I feel like he's more a player that has more like 6 or 7 out of 10 performances, rather than players like Romero, let's say, where Romero one day will be a 10 out of 10 and the other day will be like a 4 out of 10, right? I think this is something that we as a fan base now looking at Ben Davies, like kind of forgot that this is like something that can happen, right? And we appreciate him for the stability. And I even said it before this season, right? I don't necessarily enjoy the fact that Ben Davies is still at the club, right? It's nothing against him. I love him as a servant to the club. Similar thing to Sonny, right? He's given us like a big chunk of his life. And even though his performances over the years haven't been like the greatest, right? Let's call it. But I would say that I would be perfectly fine with him staying and even getting a year extension if we get another center back in the club, right? I would want Ben Davies to be, and if he's happy with it, which judging by like previous year and a half, he kind of is, right? If he's happy with this role, I would prefer him to be that, like, band-aid player, basically, right? When everything goes to shit, and we like lose Van de Ven and lose someone else, right? Then he's the player that comes in. Basically, like kind of like now, although I would preferably have even one more guy over him, right? So it's like, you know, basically, and I think me and Jack said this in the summer, right? We would really like to see like a left-sided defensive player that can cover left back and left center back. And I feel like, you know, we are just one Udogi injury away from not having a left-sided player other than Ben Davies, right? Because Spence, yes, we use him as cover at left back, but he's not left-footed. Neither is Gray, right? They are not both left. So we literally don't have a left-footer other than Ben Davies, right? So purely for like numbers exercise, I would want another left-footed player. Yeah, it's...
How criminal is that, Michael, considering, you know, the problems it caused us last year when Adoji went out injured? You know, we put Emerson out there, we put Skip out there. No one could really sort of get to grips with this. How criminal is it to be in that situation again this season?
Overall, Dave, like I will keep on saying this, right? In terms of outgoings, the summer window was really great, right? But in terms of incomings, the more I look at this season and the state of the squad, I like my rating goes down and down and down. And I have to stress that it's not about the players we brought in; it's about the players we didn't bring in, right? Because as I said, I still think Solanke suits like the system, right? I know it's a phrase many people hate to say, like he suits Angeball or whatever, right? I think he's doing like part of his job. I would like him to score more, because like the main job of a striker is to score, right? And I don't mind us bringing in Bergvall, Gray, like, you know, and other players, right? Although, to be fair, I would stand on it, 40 million for Gray was a bit much, in my opinion, right? But I think that my biggest issue is the players that we didn't bring in, right? Fraser Forster, fair enough, he stepped up and is looking like fresh and a bit sharper than I expected him to be, right? But I feel like the left-sided defensive player is a huge issue that we didn't solve. And some like adult experienced winger and adult experienced midfielder. I think this is what we've been missing in the transfer window, right? And I think it's coming back to bite us, especially the forward line, right? Because, like, yes, you can say we have plenty of injuries, right? But it's Richarlison who none of us really want to see play, right? Let's be honest about it. It's Odobert, who is a kid, right? It's who else is injured in the forward line?
Richarlison.
Richarlison and Odobert.
Mikey
right?
Moore.
Yeah, Mikey Moore, I don't know what's going on with Mikey Moore, right? Apparently he's sick. Then I hear some ridiculous statement that it's apparently like a heart issue or something. So I don't know what's going on with him, right? It's really a shame, right? And by the way, Young is coming, right? But Young is another 18-year-old that might or might not work, right? That's why I stressed about like senior. By senior, I don't mean 30-year-old, right? But like a 24-year-old, you know, exciting striker that has experience, right? I think that we are missing it, right? So, yeah, I think we left ourselves short in the window, and it's going to bite us. And guys, like, if you think the squad that was like, you know, present as against Fulham was like, you know, not good enough, right? Then keep in mind that Archie Gray, like, he looked as if he went off injured, right? So that's one less player, right? Maybe Solanke comes back, maybe not. We don't know, right? Because he's sick. It's like, it's really infuriating because this is like the worst period for every Premier League club, and we are like down to bare bones, right? So let's just hope and pray more players don't get injuries, right? Because then we are going to be fucked, like royally, you know, screwed over, right? Because like imagine like touch wood, but imagine Kulusevski goes down, or Poro, or I don't know, like Bissouma or someone else, right? Then like God help us, right? At that point.
No, I've said that about this month, is that it's the worst possible time for the injuries, the worst possible timing. And I have a lot of sympathy for Ange in that case. You know, it's only gonna be, his job already was difficult this season. Like we've said before, we had question marks about the squad. It's not even like, you know, at this point we can even debate over the squad because half the squad is injured. It's just real dire situations. And you know, best of luck to him and best of luck to this team. It still, though, feels like, you know, maybe the past two games that we've left something to be desired. You know, the Roma game, you know, even though we were down to bare bones, probably should have won it. You know, after the ball was kicked, we realized we were a much better team. And then in the Fulham game, Fulham were the better team, but for some reason they just couldn't put us away. And so we had that moment to actually kind of steal the win. Once we got the goal and we had the red card situation, we were actually pretty lucky in that game, and we couldn't really make anything out of that luck. So I think that's probably why people are pretty frustrated. It's just maybe the two last games were maybe opportunities to actually get unexpected, 3 points in both games, despite the circumstances.
And on the injuries as well, they're not. It's not going to get. These are long-term injuries. That's the problem with them, And even, people are expecting Van Den to be back, in December. It's a hamstring injury. He could come back, tweak it, and he could be out again for a long time. We've got a lot of long-term injuries, so the players are going to have to try and find it from somewhere and really dig through. But Michael, really appreciate you this evening, my man. I think you've got a lot of good things to say, a lot of balance around what you've had to say as well. And a great conversation, my man. Hopefully, the situation improves, my man. Hopefully, it improves, and we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, thank you guys, for the kind words. And I have to say, I feel a bit bad for the club, for the fans, and all that stuff, right? Because it's I will always say it, right? Whenever you want to back this club, it kicks you in the nuts, and I feel like it kind of happened again. It kind of happened again, right? Because even quickly, I will just say it, right? Even after me and you, Dave, we spoke after Ipswich, right? And we are really both, we were furious, right, with the result. And we said that, after Ange said himself that he needs to change a couple of things and all that stuff, right? The international break happened, and then City happened, right? And for me, it was okay, you've shown me in this match that something changed, right? Because plenty of things that I wanted to change were actually different. Was it partially because City kind of dominated the ball and all that stuff? Let's see if you change against Fulham, Roma, and all those other teams, right? And then I watched Roma and Fulham, and they had plenty of opportunities, both of those teams, right? And I feel our demons came back a bit. Yes, partially because of the injuries and the exploitation of players, right? But I feel we are in this really weird state where if we don't adapt at least the intensity of the game, right? And this is something that I have to point at Ange, right? Look at the squad you have, right? You cannot play Porro for 90 minutes and tell him to bomb on that wing constantly, right? Because he will get injured, right? That's just how human body works, right? So this is last point I really wanted to make. I also I am also looking at Ange for that period, right? Because he has to manage it. He has to manage through, right? Because if we play against Bournemouth going gung ho, and then we play against who is on the weekend? Who do we play on the weekend?
Liverpool.
Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea. Fucking Chelsea. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's if we keep on playing like this against Bournemouth and then Chelsea and touch wood again, Porro gets injured. As I said, God help us, right? And it will be partially on the on the system that we are playing, right? It's not Ange's fault that he's hamstring snaps or anything, right? It's not he went there with scissors and cut it, right? Or anything, right? But he kind of has to manage the squad through this tough period, right? Wait for couple injuries, right? Or play a bit more pragmatic to let those players rest more in the game, right? Something needs to happen if he wants to keep on doing well, right? Because if we lose against Bournemouth and Chelsea, it's going to be tough, in the internet sphere with Ange Postecoglou. Plenty of people are on his case already, including me a bit, right? I have to admit I am on his case a bit. I'm not shying away from saying that, right? But I think it will be deserved criticism if we keep losing from now on, right?
100%.
It's
100%. 100%.
Yeah, so sorry for elongating the.
Yeah, you're the last one, Michael. Go. Feel free, man. You're the last guest, anyways. Feel free.
If we keep losing, it's only going to end one way if you don't start putting consistent points together. Nobody's naive enough for that. And look, that's why I said to these players, if you do want to play this style of football, you want to start putting it together very, very quickly. But Michael, thank you very much for your time this evening, my man. And like I said, we'll speak again soon, lad.
Speak again. Pleasure,
Thank you,
as
Michael.
always. And
Appreciate
I really
you,
enjoy
sir.
this microphone, guys. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm glad you're having fun with it. You should get your own channel. Are you think about getting the channel started?
I really thought about it, but first of all, I really suck with all the like graphic stuff, right? I don't know how to do it. So, and I'm the type of person, before I like start doing something, I have to like pre-plan it. And, I don't like winging things. If I were to like set up a channel. Oh, sorry, I muted myself. Sorry. I still don't get used to this. Is the mute button. And if I touch myself, so yeah. Coming back to it, I really would have to like think this through. And honestly, because I have a younger brother who is also like really fixated on football, and we were even thinking about like doing something together, but he's not really like that good in English. So I don't know, maybe we will do something, but in Polish. I will see about it, right? Because I've been thinking about it, right? And as you see, I even started getting like some equipment, right? But yeah, like definitely I was thinking about it. If something happens, I will definitely let everybody know, right? So
Very nice.
This is how it stands with the whole channel thing.
Alrighty, Michael. Appreciate you, sir. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being patient, and look forward to having you on. Probably, something else other than the fan show. Now you got your new microphone and everything. Hopefully, get you on.
Yeah,
more shows.
hit me up, guys. Like I am still like a jobless freak, right? So I have plenty of time to talk. If you ever need me to fill in on a show or a panel show or whatever, right? Just hit me up, and we'll definitely set something up. I am open. Like I love talking about football and Spurs. So yeah, anytime you want me to do something, then just say.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, my man.
Bye-bye.
Big up, Michael. Really enjoyed that conversation with Big Mick, actually. I think he's got a lot of good things to say, as always. You're very balanced as well, actually, I must say. Criticisms with what he thinks, are fair sort of, not excuses, but, connotations around what's going on at the minute. Look, it's a frustrating one. Everyone's frustrated with the result. We're not going to bang on any longer, guys. We're going to get out of here. We're going to enjoy our evenings and look forward to the game on Thursday. Hopefully you do the same. Jack, anything you want to say?
Just look out for the big upstream. Will be uploaded for tomorrow. Please watch it back. Just further therapy for you guys, player ratings, tactical analysis, all that good stuff. And feel free to join us for those streams if you would like to, in case you've been missing it. Other than that, see y'all tomorrow for more content and everything. And appreciate you guys. And thanks for coming on.
Have a good one. See y'all.
See you guys. Have a good one.